戦争は変わった。一つの時代が終わり、俺たちの戦争は終わった。
War has changed. It's no longer about nations, ideologies, or ethnicity. It's an endless series of proxy battles fought by mercenaries and machines. War and its consumption of life has become a well-oiled machine. War has changed. Verified soldiers carry algorithmic arms, manipulate social influence, AI enhance and regulate their timelines. Memetic control, information control, emotion control, battlefield control. Everything is monitored and kept under control. War has changed. The age of deterrence has become the age of control, all in the name of averting catastrophe from weapons of mass destruction. And he who controls the battlefield controls history. War has changed. And when the battlefield is under total control, war becomes routine.
Think outside the cage.
The world is getting crazier. People are acting more and more insane. The end of the world is tomorrow. Tomorrow. There's only one thing to do when the world is falling apart. Listen to Basil and Gonz as they discuss this week's news and events through the lens of Bible prophecy.
You are listening to Canary Crime News Talk.
You're listening to Canary Crime News Talk. Today is June 8th, 2026. We are live to tape on episode 947. And today, Hunter's Re-Enchantment. And signing on from Off the Grid, Razzle Dazzle. I'm your best buddy, Basil. And you are not crazy.
And my name is Gonz, at Face Like the Sun, director of the Age of Deceit films, author of Prophecy Without Panic, recovering the patterns behind Bible prophecy. Your favorite Asian provocateur for Christ, live to tape from the metaverse to bring you the best news, which is the gospel message of Jesus Christ while reporting the egregious with a well-rounded, biblically grounded take on world events. It's Monday.
Gary, what day is it? Ow, Monday.
It is the celebration of the 1967 USS Liberty being attacked.
Celebration console. You can't say that.
I know. I'm sorry. Okay,
Not a celebration. Remembrance.
Remembrance. Sure. Yeah. Okay. I know. All right.
I mean, look.
Is it too soon? Too soon for jokes?
People out there are celebrating, and but that's not us here. That's not
true.
going to touch that. Not going to open up that can of worms. But here, it's a remembrance.
Yeah, okay. I can see how that might have been taken the wrong way, but
yeah, it's okay.
Hope everybody
clicks and those hate comments. Clicks.
I know the hate comments are coming back, which is a good sign. It means that people are tuning in.
I hope
it's. I welcome the hate comments. I love the hate comments. Hate away, everybody.
Correct.
Just don't address Basil, or just a tag at Basil _ all your complaints, and he'll address them one by one. Hope everyone had a good weekend. I am exhausted. I had a very long, crazy weekend, but I did rep the Canary Cry News Talk T.
Oh, look at you.
36 songs on Friday night on drums. I got because we're like the background cover band at a little beach gathering thing. Okay. Yeah. So it was a good time. There was a whole bunch of people there. I forgot that you can play music outside of church. Like I've been playing music in churches for so long that I forgot that there's like a whole world out there of people who like music that's, not worship music. We got asked for autographs. That was cool. That's
no way.
Little kids, yeah.
Way.
Oh yeah. And I didn't drop a stick one time. All 36 songs. I was very impressed. And so it was a good time.
For those who are just listening, maybe to the podcast version, Gonz is showing some pictures here of his gig, looking very California, bro. Very California.
We are in California on the West Coast.
You got the Canary Cry t-shirt on, which is good, repping it. I don't think I've ever seen you in shorts, which I'm seeing that now. That's very California. But you look happy, man. I'm glad. You look like
good. It was a good time. We got the approval of the old people there that loved the 60s classics, some Beatles and some Zeppelin,
Mhm.
but also appeasing the 90s kids, with some alternative rock. So it was a good time. But I get, some people that may be doing music professionally who play shows all the time. At the end of the show, I was like, I don't think I could do this every night. Like, this is not something like playing 30 plus songs on drums. It's another level. I'm not in shape for that, so
I would say there might be an interesting parallel there with podcasting because, of
yeah.
course, myself and Rod from Millennial Mustard Seed Podcast, where the Lord kind of called us to do a little podcast discipleship for people who want to get started. Of course, we're in the day and age where anybody can do a podcast and everybody should do a podcast, in my opinions. Although it's very sort of clever and funny to say that there's too many podcasts, but I don't believe that. There must be more human voices out there. But it's something we learned, the difference between doing a podcast maybe once a week or once a month to doing it multiple times a week is a
Yeah.
totally different thing. You switch to sort of vocation mode. And I've heard that from musicians too, but
Yeah.
once you get into it, it's a blast. It's kind of like, me, I'll complain about all sorts of things. But once I sit in the chair, once we get going, this you're in the zone. You're in the zone, baby.
Yep. No, I definitely had a couple of those moments where it's I thought, well, oh yeah, I'm playing in front of a few hundred people. Like, I completely forgot that we're like playing loud music. I'm allowed to hit this cymbal really hard and nobody's going to complain. And, just
Well,
get through
and
the
it's
song. So
interesting.
that was fun.
It'll kind of fit into maybe the broader, deeper conversation that we're going to have later on in this episode. In the age where the beast system is ramping up, where AI is taking over, where both labor and creativity are things that are in flux. The economy of creativity is changing. We've seen this with artists for the show, right? Where we would often get like 10 people making art for the show for many years, like 10 people an episode. But then once AI came out and once everybody could do it, there was a sort of demoralization to artists, to real,
Yeah.
artists. And
Mhm.
many of them hold on, they hold on as long as they can, but you can't, it just becomes a different game when the robots take over. And we're in the sort of in the zeitgeist, the analysis of the zeitgeist is the big conversation. Like, is this weird, inevitable fall into the AI robot future where humans are sort of, kind of a novelty in a way? Will this very specific, in-person, human-to-human, live music, filled with the beautiful faults of human musicians or whatever, become more valuable? Not to say that there will be more of it or something like that, but it'll become such a treasure, even if
Yeah.
it is like maybe smaller forms. It's not like you're playing an arena or something. And that's the optimistic way to look at it, is that this rarity, people will start to appreciate the rarity of live music or of non-AI podcasts or something. So there is hope. I want to put that little piece of hope in people's minds, because it's really easy to get a little stuck on the threats that AI can take away basically any human joy to be had out there in the world.
Human made joy. Yeah. Well, I mean, unless that human element is hijacked, of course,
Of
which
course.
is
That's
probably part of the whole thing here. So part of
perhaps
the
it's even
conversation.
part of the re-enchantment, the age of re-enchantment that we're living in.
Yes.
Who knows? We'll find
Yeah.
out. We'll find out
Yeah.
later.
Yeah.
Okay, I wanted to give a shout out real quick. Just a couple of people who send in some messages on the Canary Cry text message alert system. We'll jump into the news here in a moment, so don't freak out. But if you got a producer button, why don't you hit the producer button while I tell people that they should text the word Canary to 877-740-3226 to get on the text message alert system. I will personally send you a text message throughout the week every time we go live, so you never miss a show unless you want to. It's all up to you. And you can text us back at that number. You know, the difference here is we're a nice, kind of tight-knit family. We've been around for a long time. We pray for each other. We fellowship with each other. And getting on that text message list is a fun way. I can't call it a list. People get freaked out by calling it a list. I don't know.
Don't call it a list. It's
Club.
just
It's a club. Don't call it a list.
club. No, a club also has. I don't know. It's just you know, you're in the house. You're in the fellowship. There you go.
Instead of the Fellowship of the Ring, it's the Fellowship of the notification. Yeah. So we got a prayer request. We got a couple things. Let's hit that prayer request first.
Producers, assemble!
Important things. Everybody pay attention. Everybody say a little prayer right now. Write it down. Come back to it later. Monica texts the text message alert system, says, can you call the producers, please? My father-in-law, Blair, is currently in surgery. He is having an old knee replacement replaced. A replacement of the
replacement of the
lift up his wife, Beanie, too, please. Cute name, Beanie. Thankful for all of you. God bless. Okay, we're lifting up Blair and Beanie. He's getting a surgery. And there's going to be a theme here because, of course, for those who need an update, I am still in my medical boot from my foot injury.
I had forgotten that you have issues with your foot.
Yeah. I haven't been talking about it as much lately because it's just become a part of life's drudgery here. But yeah, I'm still in the boot. I'm learning just how particularly disruptive foot or leg injuries are, even though it's just a tiny little thing, my tiny little toe bone, you know, it just messes up your entire life. So things like knee replacement, stuff like this, it seems to be in the air. So we're going to continue the prayers. We're going to keep the prayer momentum going, praying for Blair and his knee surgery. And with that, I'm going to include this prayer request from 787, who says, pray for me, messed up my left foot over the weekend and can't put any weight on it.
Those lower extremities, man. What is going on?
What is going on, man? Okay, 787. I don't have a name for you, but we're calling you 787. Messed up the foot over the weekend. Can't put any weight on it. We are believing and praying for some radical moves of God here to not only have some quick, miraculous healing, but also thorough healing. Because, you know, the foot's a complex thing. And of course, I'll include the leg with that too. It's more complex than you think. Like all the little bones, all the little tendons, all the little muscles. And even when things heal up, it's very easy for things to not get back to normal for a while. So there we go. Well, just it's a theme in the Canarium. We're praying for everybody's legs and foots and feet and toes. And I say I make a big deal about this at the beginning of the show so that in the coming episodes, and however long it takes, we can also celebrate all the praise reports from everybody's legs and feet and toes.
You know what's going to happen. The movie Back to the Future, especially part 2, showed us that we're going to be walking, I guess, or floating around upside down in the future. Yeah. Back problems, feet problems. People are just going to be hanging out, going place to place, upside down. It's an upside down world.
Did that just come to you and you just searched that out, just live, just on the fly? That just came to your mind. Back to, what is that? Back to the Future 2?
Yeah.
I don't know if I've ever actually seen Back to the Future 2 now that I think about it.
Oh, brother, you are missing out on all of the Trump.
Oh, brother.
The Trump connection to Biff, the whole thing. I mean, wow. Okay.
Yeah,
somebody needs to sit Basil. I mean, I guess he's not going too far with that footage.
I can't get far.
You need to watch Back to the Future Part 2 because that's when they go to the future.
Yeah, right.
And they see, the lives of how their lives turned out in Hill Valley or whatever.
Yeah.
And
I'm sure.
There's like video. There's like Skype calls on there. He gets fired by the boss, and
we'll do a watch party.
Yeah,
we'll do a watch party.
That should be a thing.
And I'm sure a lot of our theories and analysis as of late will be reflected in that movie for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah,
You know,
of
that's just
course,
how it
yeah.
works. All right.
The Twin Pines at 9/11 or 6/11 or something like that. Yeah. Anyway, all right. If you know, you know. So okay.
Unraveling the
Let's go.
mysteries of Back to
Let's
the
go.
Future.
Let's continue. All right. What are we doing? We're getting into stuff. We got more people to that need prayer.
Well, this one just came in, so I'm just going to read it and then we're going to go. Good afternoon, brothers. Godspeed on the cast and continued prayers for the squatting cop. This is TDL Prez with the squatting cop in the real estate.
Yeah.
We have till the 12th for them to reply to the court, and if they don't, then another 3 months of paying for them to live for free before we can contact the sheriff and eject them. Go Alabama law. Yay. Bless. Not stressed. There you go. God, TDL Press. I cannot believe you're dealing with that still. God bless.
That is so crazy.
God is doing
even the robots.
Yeah, God's doing things. We were praying for that. All right, here we go. Let's get into the news. Text the word Canary to 877-740-3226. This one was sent to us by so many people. We have been watching it. We didn't want to jump on it right away because, of course, it's going to be pretty inflammatory. And I'm glad we didn't because things are getting a little straightened out. Let's talk about it regarding, and it's always the same thing, the NDAA, this year's NDAA. Let's talk about it for a second.
ZIONIST!
Okay. I'm going to take this article from Responsible Statecraft. And I'm taking it from Responsible Statecraft because this is the article that most of the other articles are quoting. So we'll get it straight from the source. ResponsibleStatecraft.org says Congress quietly moves to integrate U.S. and Israeli militaries. Now, on your timeline, you probably saw this a lot in the last week or so. The integration of the U.S. and the Israeli militaries. It's obviously a flashpoint, a very explosive set of words to put next to each other. And a lot of people throwing their takes out there. It's got almost everything that you need to get people fired up. But let's get some of the details and see what this actually means. At a time when the American public is expressing unprecedented levels of distrust in the Israeli government, Congress just proposed tying the U.S. to the Israeli military more than ever before. Buried in the House's version of the 2027 National Defense Authorization Act, NDAA, released on Tuesday, is Section 224, entitled, quote, United States-Israel Defense Technology Cooperation Initiative. The provision would arguably do more to intertwine the U.S. military with the Israeli military than the more than $200 billion, inflation adjusted, in military assistance Israel has received from the U.S. since its founding in 1984. So obviously,
1948. That's
thank you. Sorry. This is dyslexia is firing up. So obviously, the U.S. funding, taxpayer funding of the Israeli military is a hot topic for all sorts of reasons, and it has been for a long time. Whatever the ultimate number is, this is something that Trump is really in hot water for in a lot of ways, because before his election, during the campaign, it seemed, at least in the vibes, that Trump supporters were under the impression that Trump agreed that, I would say, all international sort of monetary support, foreign aid, all of this needs to be reconsidered. And while USAID and much of that system has been reconsidered in some pretty intense ways, the Israel topic is ongoing. Now, we touched on this for just a moment last week as we were waiting for all the details to come out about, Trump has a lot of pressure from a lot of his support to end military aid to Israel. Which means, and he's been very slow to move on it, and he's been very slow to respond to these sorts of things lately. Obviously,
it was a pretty inflammatory public response last week when there were some expletives used. Trump
his phone call with Netanyahu, which I think was staged to kind of
so too.
As a way for Trump to kind of get a little bit of breathing room from the base.
Breathing room and a
down his
little,
neck.
yeah.
So a phone call where he yells and cusses at Netanyahu was a great way to kind of set the stage for him to do something. Now, what we mentioned last week at the very mention of the news was that, this sounds like a clever way to continue for the U.S. taxpayer to participate to support,
be forced to participate in the military aid of Israel without sending it the old
without
way,
sending cash or without having really a number on it. If we kind of consider them our own military in a way, then it just kind of gets wrapped up in the Pentagon budget, and it's hanging out there as a thing you can report on, really. So I would say the vibes of that analysis are true, but there's some specifics here. Let's get into it. Section 224 lays the groundwork for a bilateral research and development, co-production of weapons, joint ventures, licensing agreements, and seemingly every manner of U.S.-Israeli military-industrial complex cooperation. Now, already this has the flavor of like network state, right? Beast system, network state, kind of pulling it away from this nation-state sovereignty kind of thing. It's just about technology. It's licensing agreements, like it's very corporate sounding. Technology, production of weapons, right? Production of weapons, not necessarily like military action. So this is the language that's involved.
Go ahead and finish. Finish reading that paragraph, and I got something to say about all this.
The U.S. and Israel already work together heavily on missile defense, but this provision would greatly expand coordination to seemingly every area of defense tech, including AI, quantum, autonomous systems, directed energy, cyber, biotech. Those are all just dystopian sounding list of things.
It's the next
cyber,
wave of
biotech, quantum, and many more. It says it also proposes, quote, network integration. So here comes the language. Here comes the rhetoric. Network integration and data fusion. In other words, the U.S. military's data could soon be the Israeli military's data. Ooh. In the age that we are in, Guns, where data is this kind of weird new,
it's oil.
We think of data we think of it as man-made. We think of it as intangible. We think of it as ones and zeros and kind of this invisible thing that we have learned how to use properly. But in the eyes of the leadership of the beast system, of the network state, it's just as much of a natural resource as oil or timber or anything. And we've said this many times before, but for us, you listener, us here, we really need to hammer in. When we talk about data, we're talking about almost as much of a natural critical resource as anything else. So we're talking about fusing this natural resource of the U.S. military with the Israeli military.
And a lot of this has already been going on. And I may have rattled some of this off last week when we briefly touched on it, but just for the sake, because we're talking about it again. So in terms of Israeli military stuff, we've been helping them for a long time. The Iron Dome was a partnership between America's Raytheon and Israel's, they're called Raphael. They're sort of, their Raytheon, so to speak.
Ominous.
David Sling, same thing. Raphael and Raytheon working together. Boeing and the Israeli missile defense or the Israeli aerospace industries have worked together. So that was on Arrow 2 and Arrow 3. The Iron Beam, similar partnership. And we know with the last couple of years, AI has been integrated into Israeli military technology. So it's already been happening. If we look at economic deals that have been going on for the last few years with the setup for the blockchain stuff, we know that Israel has been working with the New York Stock Exchange and Wall Street and stuff behind the scenes quietly to upgrade and integrate those systems. So it's already been happening for a long time. But the PR side of it has gotten pretty. It's gotten politicized, and maybe that's on purpose too, right? They're ready to sort of make it all public, let half the base get really inflamed and upset, the other half to become, I don't know, sort of. I don't want to say negative words, but sort of, I don't know, shill for other countries, basically, and make it very contentious in American politics, specifically regarding the conservative side of the aisle. And that's why the whole little blow up between Trump and Netanyahu, as you said, seemed like a little bit of a coordinated effort to, you can say, buy time or something. Because, in the political sense, it sort of makes sense that, oh, hey, Trump's trying to make a deal with Iran, and here's Netanyahu starting to bomb everybody and kind of throwing a wrench in the whole negotiation tactics and causing problems there. But also, Trump knows that on home soil, he's lost a lot of MAGA support over the issue of Israel. And so what a great way to sort of try to win back some of those people in a moment where we're getting closer to the
not look
midterm
weak, to buy a little bit of expectation.
Yeah. So those things are already, a lot of that is already happening. We have been talking about Israel wanting to become the second Silicon Valley, or the next Silicon
they
Valley.
Are already.
I know that's what they are now. I mean, at this point, clearly. So in that sort of context, this has been happening for a long, long time. And yes, a lot of this is PR. I think this is like, okay, yeah, we're sending billions of dollars to Israel, their defense and all this kind of stuff. But as time goes on and as that information gets public and it becomes politically divisive, let's do some things that will usurp some of that. And people that get into the weeds and pay attention, maybe they'll be able to nitpick at some of that, but that's not going to be the majority. The majority are going to be people that are highly upset about this. But there's also another wrench in the whole thing culturally. Coming from the Pentagon, and we'll get there in a second. But
yeah. Well, again, I'm kind of thinking about it kind of triply a little bit here, so forgive me. But yeah, the idea of data, you really got to consider the importance of data as almost a resource that is constituted as, I would say they would think of it as sort of a layer of reality, right?
Yeah.
And the more of this layer of reality that you have as a nation state, the better you're able to use power, right? To express power. And so, data is power. You could almost say knowledge is power, data is power. And so you say it in a PR sense. I get what you're saying. It's this it's just another way to kind of do the same thing, but under a new paradigm. Like the idea that we would just be sending weapons or money is very post World War II paradigm. Integrating information systems is very like beast system. The next.
Yeah. Well, what I'm saying though is that network of systems has already been building. So this is almost formalities at this point.
It may
not have been official in the sort of
same rails, but different cargo.
Right. Sure. Yeah.
If fully enacted, this proposal would provide a higher level of military industrial integration than the U.S. has with any other country in the world. To be sure, the U.S. has worked closely with its NATO partners on co-production and shared supply chains, most notably via the Defense Production Action Plan, and the number one arms dealer in the world, the U.S., provides weapons to militaries across the globe. But that is mostly a one-way street, with the U.S. providing weapons to foreign buyers who only occasionally make parts for those weapons themselves in the case of the F-35's global supply chain. So the implication here is it's not just a one-way street. And that's been the issue a lot of people have with the support of Israel by the U.S. is that it's kind of one way. We're just sort of sending money and we don't really know what we get back for it. We're just sort of sending, it's like an allowance kind of thing. Like that's how that's been
Trump has. That's what Trump has run on the last few, I guess, the first term and the second term, saying that, hey, against China or any other nation, that, hey, we're exporting all kinds of stuff and we don't get anything back in return.
We got to get some for it.
We got to get some stuff.
Now here's the differentiation. The Section 224 would be a different beast entirely. It would fuse the U.S. and Israeli defense sectors in multiple areas vital to the battlefields of the future, like autonomous. yeah, like autonomous systems and cyber. It would also bring extraordinary Israeli influence to the US beyond what it already has through the Israel lobby and its robust network of social media influencers. Remember, it's fifth generational warfare. So we're not just talking about missiles and bombs, right? This is where the data fusion comes in. The battlefield is the internet. By extension, the battlefield is the mind of civilians, and social media influencers are the soldiers, like Sir Darren's intro, our 2026 intro video for the live streams, talking about this new paradigm. And when people are getting fired up, it's usually because they're operating under a previous paradigm. Under the new paradigm, they might actually just explode. Like it's a totally, it's a totally different thing. Let's keep going.
Well, they're if they explode, that's fine because they're actually providing data. So it's useful either way, whether it's in support or in absolute contempt.
It's funny because in the sort of influencer social media economy, there's a kind of a humorous saying, but a true saying, that is, everything is content, right? So everything is content. If you're brushing your teeth, if you're going to the bathroom, if you're just walking down the street, everything is content. And that's how these, influencers have to think about it. Again, that's just another way of saying everything is data, right? Everything is data, which from the perspective of this NDAA, everything is a weapon is the idea. Let me continue here. It would give the Israeli government in the U.S., the opportunity. It would give the Israeli government the opportunity to greatly expand one of the most powerful levers of influence in the U.S. politics, jobs in the U.S. Now we're talking about shared supply chain stuff. By expanding or starting new co-production facilities, like it already has in Mississippi and Arkansas, the Israeli government could boast of providing jobs on U.S. soil, therefore securing allies among members of Congress who represent the districts where those jobs lie. And this is pointing to, like you say, something that has been the operating principle of the Israel lobby for a very long time. You wonder, okay, how do all these random Congress people and all these random representatives, like how exactly do they justify voting the way they do every time? And it's not just campaign donations, because those are tracked, but it's often, hey, they're a little county, they're the representative for a little county in Mississippi or Alabama, and their little county doesn't have a gigantic economy or a big city, but what they do have are factories, military industrial supply chain factories. So anything pro military industrial complex is precisely exactly what is materially good for the workers in their area, and it's those workers that get them elected. So it's not just the Israeli lobby funding campaigns, but it is also the sort of U.S. Israeli military industrial complex that is, by a couple orders removed, directly supporting real people. Yeah, that's the part that we often miss in talking about kind of big heady stuff like this, is that it always comes down to real working people and to the couple hundred or couple thousand of people in a random little county who work at the missile factory. If there's no reason to build missiles, then the economy of this rural area more or less collapses. And that they're already fighting for their lives out there with, and you got the fentanyl flowing in, and you got all sorts of bad things happen. And so this is how, and I'm not saying it's right, I'm just saying this is how it is, because a lot of people will kind of get stuck on like, this doesn't even make sense. Like, why? It's just evil. And, it may be, but it has a practical, just like how data is just an actual reflection of reality. In this case, influence is an actual reflection of real economies for real working families in these little counties. And so this is just sort of expanding that to a whole nother level, where more and more jobs, more and more factories, at least from the perspective of responsible statecraft here, again, reporting on the reporting, is sort of, it's something that will be very hard to untangle and will have very real effects in just like normal Americans' lives who sort of get in the position where they're supporting their families in these Israeli-U.S. combined manufacturing processes. All right. The result could well be a U.S. political system even more susceptible to the whims of an Israeli government that seemingly has no qualms about drawing the U.S. into military conflicts in the Middle East. This unprecedented level of U.S. military integration stands in stark contrast to the traditional aid model of defense cooperation, in which Israel already stood out as the top recipient of U.S. military assistance. As laid out in the recent Quincy Institute brief authored by Stephen Simon, this shift from an aid model to a military integration model has troubling implications. That's what we mentioned initially last week, is a total shift of framework without much of an improvement in outcome.
Yeah.
Here's the quote from the Quincy Institute. The shift will strip away the political and diplomatic oversight mechanisms that make the relationship publicly accountable, moving it from a visible annual aid vote into the opaque machinery of defense acquisition, where oversight is limited and political accountability is minimal. The result would be a defense relationship that is simultaneously deeper and less transparent. And this is all wrapped up with the shift in the economic framework of the world, right? While the shift to crypto, while the shift in CBDCs, while the shift in all these things in the name of transparency actually is folding in a lot of things, like in this case, the publicly reported support for Israel every single year, folded into this new, what this really is an economic arrangement. You know, they talk about it in the context of military because it's specifically the military industrial complex. But America's entire economy rests on the military industrial complex. So it's really an economic arrangement here. Folding it in so that you know, I would think the clever dubiousness from the Trump administration is they can say, hey, look, we stopped sending cash to Israel.
Yeah,
you're welcome. But it's sort of hidden in this layer here. This all comes at a time when the Israeli military has repeatedly used U.S. weapons and strikes that have violated international humanitarian laws in Gaza, and as Israel has repeatedly violated ceasefires, as has the U.S. itself, in the Trump administration's unnecessary war.
What an anti-Semitic take. I can't believe responsible statecraft is so anti-Semitic.
Shame. The enormous gulf between the enormous gulf between what most Americans want and what the president is doing when it comes to Israel and what Congress is proposing here should not be ignored. Just 30% of respondents to a New York Times Siena poll from mid-May. Okay, this whole paragraph is just making the mathematical point that nobody wants to keep supporting Israel in this way. Though slowly, tides within both parties are shifting as more and more members speak out against the growing divide between Israel's actions and America's interests. For example, Senator Chris Van Hollen wrote in the New York Times on Tuesday that, quote, the Democratic Party has provided reflexive and unconditional support to Israeli governments, even as their actions have increasingly undermined American interests and values. On the Republican side of the aisle, Rep. Thomas Bassey and former Rep. Marjorie Taylor Greene have openly decried the Israel lobby's corrosive influence, a stance that may have at least partially cost both of them their seats in Congress. And this is a reference to some of our analysis earlier on, that it's not about left or right. You know, they're shifting everything around. There's a great reorganization.
Yeah, reshuffling.
Left and right don't matter. Conservative, progressive don't matter. All these things are just theater. But one of the more important divisions that seems to, in itself, and this almost makes it, I don't know, this almost makes it too real for people to really understand. But it's so strange because there's no other country on the world that you can divide the entire American political apparatus into based on how they feel about that country, but it just happens to be Israel.
It just happens to be Israel. Yeah, crazy.
One-
What does
one
this
last-
mean, though? Okay, go ahead.
Well, let me just finish it out and then we can talk. Last paragraph. What can other members of Congress who are concerned about Israel's destabilizing actions do right now? Stop the Israeli-U.S. military-industrial merger in its tracks. Lawmakers should reject Section 224 from the NDAA to avoid deep integration with Israel's military at a time when a growing number of Americans oppose Israel's action in the regions. And the first mistake that responsible statecraft here makes is implying that what the American people want has any effect whatsoever on what the government does. It is Harvard approved, Harvard study approved. There is 0% correlation between what Americans want and what the government does. And their second mistake is thinking that there is any chance that the NDAA will be stopped by any means. It has never done so. There has never, I mean, there may be some details, so don't quote me on this, but more or less from the Patriot Act and the NDAA, the version of the NDAA back in the 2001 era to the NDAA of 2012 and the Smith Modernization Act, all the way to the 2026 NDAA will most likely become just as famous and just as cited. It's like watching a tidal wave and everybody freaking out, but there's just nothing ever. What are you going to do? It's the demoralization. What can you do to stop?
Well, that's the thing. That's even this article. It provides all the stuff that's happening, and at the end, it's what can we do? Oh, we can try to put a stop to it. And that's all. That's all they have to say. No true tactics or anything. It's almost like that tidal wave is coming, and it's like, okay, well, just throw a rock. We better start throwing rocks at the tidal wave to try to stop it. And it's like, well, I don't think enough people are going to throw rocks, or that the rock will do anything against the tidal wave.
Build a barrier, build a mountain, but all these things take time, and there's just no time.
It takes time. There's no time. Yeah, and I'm looking downstream here with the effects and thinking about, admittedly, a little bit more America first in this line of thought. But, I've been kind of ranting about the Second Amendment rights and what it would mean as the military gets access to laser weapons and, directed energy and all this kind of stuff.
Gets access.
Yeah, well, they get access. Do we get access? Do we get to get laser, weapons to make sure the government doesn't take over? Or what about all this surveillance? And this gets into First Amendment, Fourth Amendment, because it's not, as this happens, it won't necessarily be a really open government surveilling us, although that's sort of, I don't know, we already know that kind of stuff already happens. But in terms of the adjacent groups or projects or missions or whatever it might be,
because public-private partnerships, that kind of
stuff. Exactly. So when you think about oil, drilling became an issue. Where do you get the oil? And that became very contentious over the years, where certain places, basically the oil companies come in, they buy it out, they start drilling, the whole deal. Well, if you think of it in the same terms of data, the harvesting comes from people. Mm-hmm. So whatever they would,
us.
It's us. I know that they're harvesting us. Yeah. So whatever is going to stoke us producing more data for whatever means is probably going to violate all kinds of our Bill of Rights. And we may not notice it, or not enough people are going to notice it and cause an issue, or cause a uproar over it until it's probably way too late. But
it's the issue of manufactured consent too,
right? Yeah. That'll be a part of it, and maybe incentivized. I mean, think about the story we did last week, where we got to get the robots to train menial tasks. So strap an iPhone to your forehead and wash dishes. Right, that kind of thing incentivizes. I mean, the guy made $20 or something over the week, but if the pay is a little bit more worth it, and the government considers the data worth more than maybe a couple $100 to give to these people, us, the peons, then that'll probably be an investment they're willing to do for the longer term of data gathering and harvesting. So, I think, the manufactured consent, we are going to give up we've already been giving up our sort of national rights and stuff like that for a long time, but this ups it to that technocracy level that, and man, this is so, it's so right in line with everything we've been saying about the technocratic rise, the techno-conservatism, and how we were fighting. Think about 10 years ago when Trump was first elected. It was like, "Whoa, what did you want? You wanted the Satanist Hillary Clinton in there." And it's like, we knew that was sort of the op, right? That yes, we don't want the Satanist baby eating, crazy lady from the left, liberal, whatever, in there. But that means we got the technocratic, super cyber, whatever,
And it's
super
as we
surveillance.
said before, it's the only way that it could have been done.
It only way it could have been
It
done.
never
right.
was, and that's in hindsight. Not to say that we were tuned into this the entire time. I mean, maybe we were, but we just didn't put the pieces together or something, because it's so easy, it's so clever that if we look at what the institution of the beast system looks like manifest, how could they possibly make it happen by advocating for it, right? And so you have Hillary Clinton advocate for it sort of explicitly, which causes the inevitable backlash, which gets Trump in on it, who is like almost literally an ancestor of the creators of the technate, creating the entire North American Union. Okay, but let's not get sidetracked, because the punchline of this whole thing, the punchline of the whole thing is this. Okay, and this is coming from military.
Yeah.
Do you want to read it, or you want me to?
Sure. Yeah. Military.com. Pentagon raises Israeli spy threat as NDAA seeks deeper defense ties. So
at the same time, and this is the irony, because the Israeli spy threat has always been a threat. I mean, interestingly enough, I mean, by God's providence enough, today is the anniversary of the U.S. Liberty. And for those who don't know the details of this, the U.S. Liberty was an American ship that was in the area while Israel was at war with, I think, Egypt, and they ended up bombing this ship with Israeli planes over and over and over again. It was a huge problem, and it's a whole deep thing about did they know, didn't they know? They claim to not know, but there's a flag. There's no way they couldn't know, et cetera, et cetera. And the kind of explanation for why, because the question is always why, was that this particular ship, the USS Liberty, was an intelligence gathering ship. It was sort of it was an information vessel to collect signal intelligence, to watch the action from afar, and allegedly Israel thought that and maybe we were, I don't really know this part of the conversation, but just to keep it brief, Israel was under the impression that the U.S. was gathering intelligence on Israel and then giving it to the Egyptians to use against Israel in this campaign. And Trump has said it. Lots of government officials have said it. We hear it in the context of China, but it's also in the context of Israel, of Russia. When it comes to intelligence, of data, of spying, we're always spying on each other all the time. And we know it. We know we do, even to our allies. There's a lot to say about Israel spying on us. But Trump will justify it by saying, like, yeah, well, we spy on them. We spy on each other all the time. And so it's been this sort of open secret. But at the very same time, when the new NDAA is coming out saying we're going to integrate intelligence, which is almost synonymous with spycraft, with Israel, the Pentagon is upgrading the designation of the risk of Israeli spycraft to critical, the highest level in its system. So, we have this almost cosmically absurd juxtaposition of getting ready to share all of our intel with Israel while talking about how much of a threat it is that they're coming in and spying on us.
If it's a threat, but we better bring it home then, We better bring all that data home with this new. It almost justify. It could be turned around to justify the
it's
NDAA. You know,
if you can't beat them, join them. Kind
you
of.
can't beat them,
mentality.
join them. Yeah, like they got all of our information. That's not good. You know, the only solution is to work with them. Kind of
Maybe
thing.
if at least we agree to do it, then who knows? I mean, if I'm being optimistic, at least if we agree to do it, then we know what they know. But it may be more dubious than that.
Yeah, the article here says, and we don't have to read the entire article, but get you a little flavor. The Pentagon's Defense Intelligence Agency recently elevated Israel's counterintelligence threat designation to critical as highest level in its system. The assessment was raised in recent weeks though officials reportedly did not disclose the exact date of the change. The designation became public June 6th. The disclosure comes as Congress considers legislation that would significantly expand defense technology cooperation between the United States and Israel. U.S. officials reportedly believe Israeli intelligence services have intensified efforts to collect information regarding internal American deliberations involving Iran and conflicts in the Middle East. Officials told NBC that those concerns prompted the defense agency or defense intelligence agencies to raise the threat designation. Israelis officials denied the allegations. Goodness gracious. And reiterated that Israel does not conduct espionage operations against the United States. Why do they lie? Why do they just, it's just part of the game, I guess, but still.
It's such an American thing, right? It's very concerning. And for those who are feeling concerned, I'm with you.
Yeah.
But it's a very American thing for the government to operate in this sort of transparent structural way against itself all the time.
All the time.
You can kind of compare it to even, kind of at least one way of understanding the founding fathers' creating of our political system, which is this endless back and forth, the endless government battling with itself internally.
Yeah.
It's the Republicans versus Democrats. It's the separation of powers, the president versus the judicial versus the legislative. This combat, this internal combat is such an integral built-in part to the US government. And what we find ourselves doing often, what we have to do is step back and say, there's nothing to say, because again, the tsunami's coming, but there's nothing we can do about it. But if we're trying to be optimistic, it's that dialectic, that internal combat within the country that hopefully, best case scenario, somehow makes us stronger, or in the eyes of China and other authoritarian, tyrannical, governments, think that that's what makes us weak and makes us easily messed with, easily.
Easier to infiltrate and
like China, like our laws that don't stop the CCP from buying our farmland next to our militaries. We're for sale, which is the reason for a lot of things we like about America. But also has this inherent struggle inside of it, and it's the pursuit. There are times, and I'm not going to necessarily stand on principle in this moment, but there are times when the built-in conflict to America gives us exactly what we want from the American spirit. The sort of freedom, the free market capitalism, the self-determination.
It's the character trait that prevents us from becoming an outright authoritarian or totalitarian system that gives us, that provides the illusion that there is a debate out there, that the debate can be public and discussed out there instead of just a king just telling us what to do or something. So
like, of course, we would simultaneously basically be trying to make an economic deal to give the Israeli military all of our data, while at the same time considering them our biggest spy threat. It's just so classically American.
Very American. Yeah. The White House and Israel have denied the allegations described in those reports. Just keep the keep the party going. The reported assessment has drawn attention because it became public while lawmakers are debating a provision in the fiscal year 2027 National Defense Authorization Act that would deepen defense technology cooperation and industrial integration between the two countries.
Yeah, the thing we just covered. I think
Though,
that's
yeah. No, I don't think we need to go on. But the thing that I find very fascinating too is the politicization by our, especially the Christian church leaders, and I'll outright just call some of the folks Christian Zionists. I say that in a political sense, right, in the contemporary way, because I've seen sentiment out there of, hey, the Bible says the whole world is going to go against Israel, and look at this, everybody's against Israel now. And meanwhile, we are integrating the most powerful military in the world with Israel. So it's kind of like, I don't know, there's a lot of disconnect happening on all fronts, and it's very frustrating, I think, for someone like myself, someone maybe like you out there who kind of pays attention to this stuff. It's frustrating that there are narratives being adopted at these different levels, and no one's willing to step back and look at the bigger picture, which I guess that's, I don't know, we're not supposed to do that.
And of course, from a sort of biblically prophetic timeline kind of view, the integration of U.S. military intelligence and Israeli military intelligence was addressed by someone who texted the Canary text message alert system 256. Says, I know you guys are aware of this and have already seen it, but the responsible Statecraft article that reported on the integration of the U.S. and Israeli militaries is wild, to say the least. It goes right along with what you were showing 1 or 2 episodes back, how in the end times, all the militaries will have to come together. It looks like they are going for it, but it has looked like that before. I guess we'll see. I hope you guys are doing well. Yeah, I mean, exactly. That's kind of the thing. We're in this new age of data, this new age of 5th generation warfare. So of course, even this simple matter of information integration is it is the most modern version of like combining militaries. Even we say it's not in the paradigm of like controlling men on the ground together, which again we already do. What are you gonna do? But it's the sort of upgraded beast system version of that that is reflected in the Book of Revelation.
It's pretty interesting that it's in terms of archetypes. And for those of you in the Patreon, the Face Like the Sun Patreon, I did a study last week on if 1948 was a fulfillment of biblical prophecy, and looking at it from the archetypalism framework, you can say, based on some of the narratives, that there are some archetypal things that did happen in 1948 that would check off some of the Exodus pattern. That I sort of lay out the Exodus pattern, which is found throughout the scriptures. I won't go through them here, but basically there's a pattern that is laid out with Exodus, that happens in the Babylonian exile, that happens with Christ. Christ sort of fulfills this, and this is not just me coming up with it. This is like old, sort of, I don't know, 100 years old at least, study on typology, and it's in the scriptures. The Bible itself translates various events throughout the Old Testament and New Testament as this is the Exodus, this is like the Exodus, and they bring it back to that whole model. But it's also present in the Book of Revelation. If you look at the plagues, and if you look at sort of the way in which redemption comes about, the same pattern persists. And so in that sense, we see it throughout history. But when it's the United States, this modern unstoppable military, or at least that's what we are told, with Israel, which obviously has all of the ties to the biblical account, it feels even more, I don't know, the iteration is strong when it comes to the archetype and the beast and the harlot coming together and making the merchants of the world wealthy. People talk about the Battle of Armageddon, and I think a lot of the Christian Zionists may have it a little wrong. It's not to say they're not believers or anything, but this idea that everyone's going to come against the modern nation state Israel and that will be the Battle of Armageddon. I don't know if that's really the case, but in terms of the militaries working together to try to push back on the returning Christ, that is definitely the biblical model, and that includes all kinds of militaries from that region as well. So it's it's a strong iteration, and it's hard to dismiss the geographical players in all of this. So I understand like the biblical fervor and all this, and then you sort of start adding in the AI conversation that we've been having for 15 years, plus the alien conversation that we may or may not get to today, but it's certainly part of the discussion when it comes to what it all means, and what's the reality of all the religions and God and all these things. It's Man, it's just a crazy time to be alive, Basil. And that's why, over the weekend when I just played some music, I was like, hey, this is nice. I get to take a break from the crazy.
That's where it's at,
Because
baby.
I know that most people aren't paying attention, but for those people who are, it's nice to kind of come out of the rabbit hole every once in a while and realize
You
that
gotta
not
do it.
everyone's
You got to
is,
do it. I'm
in there,
telling
yeah.
you, we're telling you now. Look, we do this all week long, but you got to come up. You got to find whatever version of that is in your life. Come out of the rabbit hole.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. Let's go ahead and thank some producers, Gons, because we got some more fun stuff to talk about.
Let's do it.
All right. We're on the value for value model, folks. Of course, you know this. I sent out the email today, and I just took the opportunity to kind of to pontificate a little bit about, we're always looking like, what the heck are we doing? What are we doing wrong? What are we doing right? What, comparing, which we shouldn't be doing, and we try not to do, but trying, comparing what we do versus other more significantly successful shows. And one thing I've noticed is, a lot of the bigger shows, they treat every episode as if it's somebody's first episode, right? Whereas what we can't help ourselves but doing, and was what happened at the very beginning, the reason we started News Talk was to take the research, the principles, the theology, the understanding, the et cetera, that we had gained over, many years of doing interviews in Canary Cry Radio, and then to start applying that to the news, right? And building each episode on top of that. So for a newcomer, it's very easy to listen and go, these guys seem to be making a lot of references to stuff that they are not explaining, it kind of builds on itself. And every, testimony we get of somebody finding the show in modern times is, hey, yeah, I didn't really know what was going on at first, but then I just kept listening. I listened to a couple episodes and it started to make sense and everything started building on itself. And then I got it. And then it's, I see the value and I'm in it. So if this is anybody's first episode, we understand. We're sorry. We don't start from the beginning every time. But I promise you, if you stick around for a couple episodes, you'll start seeing the value. And another thing that makes us maybe unfortunately successful shows is that we don't do advertising. Okay, there's no corporations. There's no our income does not come from the amount of people who listen to the show. Hence, it is not necessarily apparently a priority for us to maximize the amount of people listening to the show.
I mean, it's very much like the church, the seeker friendly church versus like a, like a, I don't know, like a theologically rich church or something like that, where you walk in and it's much more deeper into the scriptures than what you would normally get. But, to each their own, and then the different parts of the body work different ways. So, I'm not too concerned about it. But
in the email, we're not necessarily seeker friendly. Now, because of that, because of not being seeker friendly, we're not very brand friendly either. And we don't want to be, because the idea of gathering as many eyeballs and ears and attention and tricking people into listening, but with fancy clickable headlines and stuff like that. We're trying our best not to worship mammon here and participate in a system that monetizes you and your attention. Okay. So that's why we're on the value for value model. The show will always be free, but the understanding is that everybody gets is that if value doesn't come back into the show, we inevitably just won't exist anymore, and then we'll be gone. So if it's something that you find value in, you want us to keep existing, each and every one of us got to take responsibility to keep the thing alive. And you can do that by producing the show. You become a producer of the show. You can put it on your LinkedIn. You can tell your friends. You can tell your, any young eligible love interests that you're a podcast producer. Go ahead. And you produce the show with your time, your talent, or your treasure. Okay. It's not all about money. If you got artistic skills, you can make art for the show, make music for the show, go to .art to upload it. If you got some time on your hands, a couple minutes a week or something, you can get involved, help us out with, building the community, sustaining the systems, stuff like that. Or if all else fails, you got a couple bucks and the Lord leads you, you can support us with your treasure. Because of course, that's essential. It's very important. And you can learn all about this and produce the show, whatever way you want, by going to canarycry.support.
Hey, if people are single out there, this is like the show is telling them, if you're on a date or something, that you're a producer of Canary Cry News Talk. That's a real quick way to find out if it's long-term material.
If nothing else, it's a good filtering process.
Yeah, good filtering. Yeah, good sieve.
And we've got plenty, innumerable love stories of Canarians finding each other, falling in love, having babies, doing the whole thing. So it's a great way. All right. Big shout out to all of our monthly producers, people who sign up to support the show on a monthly basis. Keep the value going. Love you. Thank you. Couldn't do it without you. But our executive producers are people who come in, they get so much value, they produce the show, an individual show like this one, for $100 or more. That makes them an executive producer. So we start out by thanking them. And real low on producers today, Gon. So this will be quick. Our one executive producer who came in for the show, I bet you could guess, is executive producer Sir LX Protocol, V2 Baron of the Brian Protocol. Right, he comes in for $100.33. Thank you very much. On a 493 episode streak and a 147 executive producer streak. Amazing. That's it for our executive producers. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Oh, I forgot to mention, we have a knighting today.
That's right.
In this segment. Okay. And for those who don't know, let me tell you. When you produce the show, could be at once, could be over time, doesn't matter. But if you produce the show in the amount of $1,000 or more, we have saved a seat for you at the Canary Cry Roundtable of Knights and Dames, where you'll be knighted on the show, damed on the show. You'll get your knight or dame name. You'll get your protectorate, and everybody is legally obligated to recognize your nobility and your contribution to keeping the show going. So we'll have a knighting in just a second. But before that, we have got some producers, a couple more producers to thank. They came in under the executive producer amount, but over $7.77, which means they could have a note on the read on the show if they sent one. But we're going to start out with CageRattlerCoffee.com.
Hey, Cage Rattler Coffee. Excellent.
CageRattlerCoffee.com. Go check it out. You're drinking the coffee anyways. You're drinking that moldy, bad, burnt coffee from the big evil corporations that are working against everything you believe in right in front of you. They're using your money to do these things this month of all times. And so the good news is, the blessed news is that Canarians, just like you, they said no more. Henceforth, we will source our own GMO-free, organic, single origin coffee from around the world. We will roast it in teeny tiny batches to perfection, and we'll make it available to Canarians and only Canarians. And the fun part is they produce the show value for value based on what happens over there. So you support the show, you support other Canarians just like you. Parallel economy, we've got to support each other, and you get the best possible product. And Cage Rattler Coffee came in and supported the show today for $41. Thank you very much.
Cage Rattler Coffee, where value for value never tasted so good.
And
I gotta say, having a sip of Cage Rattler Coffee as that little what is it called, sting or whatever, the little jingle is going, is it's like a euphoric experience. I think everybody who has Cage Rattler Coffee at home, try it. Try to time a sip of Cage Rattler Coffee as the jingle goes off, and it's like it's like when you were a kid, and you had to time.
Fast acting.
Yeah. Do you remember timing up the Wizard of Oz to the Pink Floyd album Dark Side of the Moon? It's like that, you got to like integrate the two different things. But anyway, continue.
It's a whole nother experience. Okay, we got a couple more producers. Producer Rebecca T comes in. Rebecca T.
Thank
Show.
you, Rebecca
She
T.
comes in for $33.11.
33. She is Illuminatus.
Illuminatus!
She on the
And
street?
11 cents.
Oh, 11 cents.
She is on a 30 episode streak.
Yeah, she's on a streak.
Ooh, she's almost a master shill.
Almost there. Thank you, Rebecca T. We got producer Robert Y comes in for 11.11.
Hey, Robert Y. Thank you.
11.
Let me just double check real quick in case Robert Y sent a note. I don't see a note from Robert Y. Thank you very much for the producership.
Yep,
And that's it. That's it for today. Thank you very much. Just a handful. Just getting, we're just getting warmed up. Okay. We got another show on Wednesday. The producers, they're going to come in strong. I can feel it.
We get it. Everyone's gonna get in on the SpaceX or IPO.
IPOs.
Everyone, the market's tanked last week. Everyone's taking their profits so they can go
Beginning
all
of the
in on
month,
space.
everybody's paying rent here.
Yeah.
That's fine. We had, of course, a couple of people come under the $7.70 mark for keeping their streaks going. We'll thank you on Wednesday.
Okay.
And what do you say we knight? We knight. What are we knighting? We are knighting. He came in about 8 episodes ago with a big Insta-Night executive producership, and it's Robert S.
I gotta move all my drumstick out of the way. Oh, that's not supposed to happen. Sorry, that was the wrong one. Well, the drumsticks are 11. You see, that's why it happened.
I understand.
Ooh, so sharp.
Your sword. Here, I'll get mine. Here it is. All right, we want to call up Robert S. Please step forward to the Canary Cry Roundtable of Knights and Dames, where we have a seat for you. Thanks to your generous support in the amount of $1,000 or more, we are proud to pronounce you Sir Robert, Knight of the Table Flippers. Please join us at the Canary Cry Roundtable, where we have the belt of truthful truthiness, the breastplate of righteousness, custom fit Birkenstocks to carry forth the gospel of peace, the shield of ferocious faith, the helmet of substantiating salvation, the supernatural sword of the spirit, and of course, adorable samurai babies, infinitely cute kitties for cuddling. And if you're hungry, we have Fancy Feast wet food, carved Cosmo the CRISPR cow, and fried wormicorns. Welcome to the Canary Cry Roundtable of Knights and Dames, Sir Robert, Knight of the Table Flippers. And the crowd goes wild. Remember, everybody, if you see Sir Robert out on the street, you pick him up, you put him on your shoulders, you dust off a nice big comfy pillow for him to sit on. That's what you do. Thank you very much, Sir Robert, Knight of the Table Flippers. Also love the name because a lot of look, the table flipping needs to come back. Okay, we don't talk about it enough, but it needs to be done. Okay, click a couple buttons here, and with that, one last announcement. We got a text message from Dame Madeline. Dame Madeline says, any Canarians down for a meetup in Trondheim, Norway on Sunday the 21st? Hit me up at castleeris@gmail.com. Now, these are words that might be hard to spell. So Castle, C-A-S-T-L-E, Eris, H-E-I-R-E-S-S, Castle Eris at gmail.com. If so, and we'll make it happen. Dame Madeline, Trondheim, Norway. That's very fun. I don't know.
I pulled up this photo of the, I think, is that the Aurora? Yeah, I don't know what it's called.
Borealis.
Borealis, thank you. And yeah, this is the area where they have like the big houses on the river type thing going on. Is that
classic Norway? Classic Norway. Now, for us Southerners here in America, Trondheim, Norway is very far north. It's kind of considered like the most reasonably habitable north you can go in Norway. Now, there are lots of little towns much further than Trondheim, but it's kind of the furthest north that like regular people want to go. Lots of great northern lights, very fun. You get
there's not a single photo when I type in Trondheim, Norway, where it's not the river here. It's like not this river with the houses.
Okay.
So I don't know. Is there anything other than that in Trondheim, Norway?
I mean, it's a
has to be.
famous thing of Trondheim. Yeah, it's a big
Okay.
thing. But,
Let
you
me
know,
see.
every city's got their, like, iconic images, of course. But I've never been to Trondheim. The highest I ever made it was Voss, Norway. I went up to Bergen. I went up to Voss. But Trondheim is further north than that. I had to look it up before the show to see if I'd been there. I have not. But so there you go. I know we have a nice handful of Scandinavians who listen to the show all the time. I don't know what it's like to try to get to Trondheim from wherever you are. But if you're able to go to Trondheim on Sunday, June 21st, email castleeris@gmail.com, and maybe we'll put it on the website, canarycrymeetups.com. Let's put it on the website at canarycrymeetups.com.
Is that the summer solstice, June 21st?
No idea.
I think it is. Tell us, chat. Let us know.
Yeah.
All
well,
right.
that probably means that either it's going to be like 24-hour daytime or 24-hour nighttime in Trondheim. I'm not really sure which.
Oh, really?
Which way
That's
it
one of
goes.
those things.
It's pretty close to those things. When I went on a little travel mission up there, and I did not make it as far up as Trondheim, but when I was there, it was like midnight and it's broad daylight out. Not even.
Must mess with your head a little bit.
It messed with me. It was weird, but
yeah,
still fun experience. Okay. All right. Let's get into it. A little update. Now, don't be mistaken, folks. We're going to check in with Hunter Biden, but it's going to lead somewhere that you couldn't possibly imagine.
Oh, wow. Yep. We're good at doing that.
Got hairy legs. Got hairy legs.
Yes. Offspring of the hairy legs.
Got hairy legs. Hairy. Got hairy legs. Hairy.
COVID.
I almost wanted to name today's episode the Re-Enchantment of Hunter Who. It sounds a little bit too maybe Doctor Who-y, but Hunter's he's on the warpath. He's trying to recover from his brand problems. We've covered a couple of clips recently, but he's really on the march. He and Candace are like best friends now. It's really weird to see. Sometimes you just wish that these people would just disappear, but there's something inside them that just makes them incapable of just going away.
We will hunt you down and make you pay.
USA Today, I thought, was the best article on this phenomenon here as we launch into this. They had a headline: Hunter Biden in viral social media posts reclaims his narrative.
Ooh.
Well put, USA Today. I mean, we know that this is a narrative war, a fifth generation warfare, and that's a big part of it. If you can control the narrative or reclaim it, as USA Today suggests, then you have a little bit more social currency, if you will.
Yeah, in the era, or even now as we're just kind of coming out of this era, but the era of kind of social justice, the reclaiming my time, reclaiming his narrative, like this is sort of a victorious headline. You're like, yeah, you go, girl, take control of your own story, do the thing.
Right.
That's kind of the vibe of it. And so considering it's Hunter Biden, the reporting on this being sort of like victorious, as if we're supposed to be like proud of him or impressed with his ability to endure, is like, no, this man should not be enduring. Stop it. Just go away. We're not going to celebrate this.
This is reverse cancellation. We had the era of cancellation, people getting canceled all the time. But in this context, it's like the reversal. Okay, so it says here, Hunter Biden was once considered the freewheeling black sheep of his famous first family, the lost laptop-owning, crack cocaine-using, womanizing recipient of a preemptive presidential pardon. And Biden seemingly considered all of that when publishing a series of X-rated social media posts on X, formerly Twitter, that poke fun at his past scandals. In doing so, the quote-unquote beautiful things memoirist is now a public-facing advocate for the arts and sobriety
There's
after battling drug and alcohol addiction.
Oh, that's the angle. Okay. I mean, there's too much levity here. There's too much there's too much victory. They're talking about as if he's like I don't know, like he's a character who has had a character arc and he's down and out, and look at him go, be very proud of him. What a great American story. No, some people should not be doing this. Or if they're going to do it in private, right? Do it in private. Don't make a show of it. You don't need the media to celebrate you. And then putting it in the context of arts and sobriety. Of course, sobriety, addiction, recovery, these things are they feel good, right? To hear somebody
It's a
pick
feel good
themselves
story.
up,
Yeah.
the redemption, and maybe look, I'm just coming in from sort of a grumpy analyst sort of point of view. Of course, he's a child of God. God has a plan for his life. I hope Jesus, I hope Hunter encounters Jesus in a wonderful way. I hope that I against my reluctant flesh, I'll say it out loud, against my reluctant fleshly annoyance by this story, I hope that there's a true salvifical experience that Hunter it has, because celebrating sobriety, celebrating recovery, these are all very good things, but it's also kind of a weird display. The theater. There's a theater to it, there's a PR.
Yeah.
It's this PR campaign. It's like a Bill Gates wearing a sweater, right? Bill Gates wearing a collared shirt and a sweater. That's the same thing as Hunter Biden, coming out talking about his recovery, and his art is what's going to lead us.
So yes, there's two parts to this already from the get-go that I'm seeing here. Now, I've been saying, and I guess we've been talking about this on this show for a few years now, as AI gets prominent, as especially for the arts, as it becomes very easy to publish art or create art in a way, there's going to be a renaissance of hand-drawn art, or real artistry, someone that can really draw something with a pen and paper, that kind of thing.
The human touch.
The human touch. That sentiment is being spearheaded by Hunter Biden, and that troubles me a little bit, not because of his art skills, but just because that whole movement is yet to really take hold. And I think whoever's behind the Hunter restoration campaign knows where that's headed. And we'll talk about his art in a second here, but that's one angle to it. The other one is with the sobriety narrative and everything else. He was in the mix of the aftermath of things like Pizzagate and the Epstein files, and the horrendous things that the world leaders do and their families, and the nepotism and all that. He was part of that narrative of he was one of the faces of being attacked, a scapegoat in a sense. So his story is written, the way they've positioned Hunter in this return to public facing, rewriting the narrative, it's truly the phoenix rising out of the ashes narrative, where his character, his everything was completely demolished, and now he rises from the ashes like a phoenix. So just
like
pay attention to some of this stuff.
this sort of occult kind of.
Yes, it's like this whole thing reeks of ritual, and some of it in a vacuum. Again, with the contentious things that have happened with the right wing and the conservatives, some people might like what Hunter has to say in recent days here. But let me continue here. His social media success comes during the same week his stepmother, former First Lady Jill Biden, has received mixed reviews for a post-White House memoir, View from the East Wing, released June 2nd. And President Donald Trump faces higher disapproval ratings. So yes, the stage is set for somebody to come in from the left side of the political aisle to capture everyone's imagination, because Gavin Newsom ain't doing it.
On the sort of symbolic and ritualistic side of this, it's like Hunter is the manifestation, or playing the character in the play, in the ritual of like the Democrat Party, right?
Yeah.
It's down, caught in all of his sins, his wrongdoings,
down and out,
the evidence is there, exposed, and yet through this repositioning, this
Diversity,
reorganization
recovery
of principles and things, they can recover, which is exactly what the Democrat Party needs to do, wants to do very badly, is not doing it very well. Perhaps it won't be able to do it until after Hunter completes the ritual here.
Yeah. Biden voyaged in recent months to reclaim his public narrative from Trump.
Yeah,
I think that's
right.
interesting.
As
USA Today. Okay,
his crackheadedness and his crimes against all sorts of victims is
Burisma
somehow
just,
a Trump talking point or a Trump invented narrative, like fake elections or fake news or something.
Burisma was happening when Trump was firing people on his show, on his reality TV show. So, whatever. Last month, he joined conservative Candace Owens for a wide-ranging interview on the new Trump Foes hit podcast. I like that. Candace Owens, just really the red carpet for the left, so to speak.
Hit podcast.
Hit podcast. And appeared for a 3-hour sit-down last year on host Andrew Callahan's Channel 5 online series. None of his previous attempts at candor have garnered the same public response as the intimacy and immediacy of his online posts. When a reporter for Playboy magazine publicly requested a Q&A, Biden wrote jokingly that, quote, "I'm not posting nude because those days are gone." Good for you, Hunter. Biden posted a selfie of himself, quote, taken at a Super 8 motel off I-95 in Connecticut in response to a Brooklyn attorney who said he was part of the, quote, elite oligarch class. Okay. I don't know that these are the social media posts that really got him back into the favor. Maybe for this guy, maybe for like the left.
Well, no, it is, because this is exactly it. And again, we talk about recovery and addiction a lot on Clubhouse. A lot of people call in, and it's interesting because in a sort of, 12-step kind of traditional recovery thing, the way you get power over it is by admitting it. And by admitting all of these faults, taking stock of all of the bad things you've done, not pretending it didn't happen, but fully recognizing all the things.
I think of how refreshing that is for Democrats.
Well, and people like it. That's the thing.
People like it.
It shows that you're not. It gives this impression of transparency. It's very effective, and he's doing it very well, obviously, by not sort of hiding from it. And it's we see it a lot. We've seen it a lot in a lot of different arcs. But again, I just don't like it. I don't like it.
It's making you uncomfortable. Biden, a painter who considers himself a contemporary artist, clarified that he meant to call Trump immigration czar Stephen Miller a sadistic, infantile, ugly expletive, not to be confused with just ugly in another viral post. Biden also wrote that, quote, "I've stolen..." I'm not going to even read that. He just had fun with the word election, okay? So I just want to touch on this because I did notice something over at hunterbiden.com. You go there, you can see his art, very colorful drawings. And you go to current works, and the first work that's in there, Basil, it's called Watchers.
Mm-hmm.
And it's what's the style? I don't even know what it is. Like a colorful.
It's kind of like a psychedelic cell art. I think cell coloring is one way to describe it, where it kind of looks like a coloring book. I mean, that's the hilarious part about this. It looks like a kind of psychedelic, arcane coloring book where he can just kind of fill in the colors, right? It's just a bunch of shapes that form a picture, and it's not like a freehand, not really like impressionist. There's no, as far as painting goes, there's not like shading or brush strokes or anything like that. It's like a coloring book, psychedelic, archaic or arcane coloring book.
So in the image, this painting is two individuals, what looks like a male and a female, and they're kind of cuddling, and there's a little child in between.
But kind of an Adam and Eve vibe in a garden.
Yeah,
in
a garden, yeah. But there's like a
blue skin. They kind of
blue skin.
Hindu, old ancient Hindu
Yes.
art or something.
Yes, it's the Hindu iconography of the gods. They had bluish skin, or maybe even Egyptian deities. Or you think about the what's that movie? Avatar. They had some blue skin too. But anyways, the blue skin thing, the head shape of the individual is kind of cone like you know, the elongated skull kind of thing going on. So I am not unconvinced that Hunter is well aware of the whole Watchers mythology. I mean, there are some owls there, which
There's
of
lots
course,
of owls. The owls are very centric. There's
yeah, the
multiple
owls are,
owls hanging out with the Adam and Eve character in the garden here.
yes, and so you know, it's just very interesting. Of course, Watchers being a reference to, or maybe not in the painting outright, but obviously for us, the Book of Enoch, the sons of God, or Bene Ha Elohim in the Bible, Genesis 6, the ones that sinned, that left their abode and mated with human women to create a race of giants called Nephilim. The word Watchers is mentioned in Daniel chapter 4, if I'm not mistaken, as one of the ones from heaven. So, well, you know, he's got to know about it, right? He has to know. He has to know what he's.
Of course. Well, and now
the Watchers.
You know, it must be mentioned. Now, the art part is what's gonna be the key to the rest of the show here. But if you remember, his art has been a topic of investigation in the past, where suddenly, out of nowhere, he just started painting and selling paintings for like $500,000 right at the exact time that he was having financial problems. You know, he was under a microscope. He was having trouble with the IRS. And it was, you know, pretty obvious that just kind of trying his hand at painting and then selling those paintings to anonymous buyers was a way to launder money to the child of the president or the ex-president or whatever it is, right? This was this very clever elite scheme because art is this kind of unregulated. It's very, on top of that, it's very mysterious. It's very subjective. It's opaque. The art industry is opaque to the general public. Most of us don't really have a lot of experience with the like high art scene, mostly because it's a playground for the rich to hide money, avoid taxes, you know, stuff like that. Because there's no way to, it's truly the most exquisite version of free market capitalism that is almost unregulatable, because the government can't come in and say this art is good, this art is bad. And so with those like Hunter, whose art is quite obviously sort of symbolic, very Jungian, very magical, very occult, at his price point, of course, he's trying to sell to other elites who also are familiar with the language of symbolism and ritual and arcane stuff, right? So he's perfectly positioned it's almost like this was always his plan B. He always knew because of, you know, the scene, which is hilarious because part of his recent posting and part of his recent talks with Candace was him saying, oh, we're not in the elite class, but my right, and he's not in the Epstein class, you know, trying to be a man of the people, deny the fact that he is like in this elite class, and yet at the same time he picks up a paintbrush and starts working in the most elite, opaque economy of magical objects, the high art industry.
Hey, I want to paint something like this and make 50K, 100K for each painting. He's got another one here called Annunciation, which it just means announcement. And of course, biblically, the angel Gabriel telling Mary about the conception of Jesus. That's, you know, often considered the Annunciation. But in this particular version, his Hunter version, it's a lizard man, or I don't know, some kind of creature. It looks kind of like a lizard,
sort of reptilian sitting in a chair.
Reptilian sitting in a chair with tongue coming out.
Reptilian tongue with many points. And he seems to be like shouting or wagging his tongue at, again, an owl. To him, you know, very occult, very whatever.
So
it's weird.
I think he's saying more with his art than people let on. And I think eventually, put it in the Red Book, the conservatives will start using his art as a they'll do the whole breakdown, the occult
Well,
breakdown of Hunter's art.
The owning, like, who, if you're a rich person, right? And look, maybe you owe the Bidens money or something, right? Like, in our layman view, right? So
Yes.
when we conceive of the art world, we imagine somebody walking into an art store, seeing this on the wall, going, "Oh, this will be great over the credenza," right? Who's the guy? Oh, Hunter Biden. Oh, great. Now in my entryway, I'll have a weird lizard guy yelling at an owl, and all my rich friends can come over. And when they walk in and they take off their shoes, and my robot servant, whatever, does whatever, and they take a, line of ketamine at the door or something, they'll look at this, and can proudly say, "This is a Hunter Biden piece." And then their friends go, "Wow, that's great!" Like this sort of.
I didn't know he did art. Yeah.
Well, it would be a signifier of like, hey, we're on the same team, right?
Right.
Like, hey,
Yes.
this is me. I'm in the club. I have a Hunter Biden. I'm helping him. That means I have a connection with the Bidens. I have a connection. That would all be understood in that sense. The other side of it is, the reality is, a lot of people who spend money on art, they buy it and they put it in a storage facility and they don't hang it up, and it just sits there and they write it off for taxes. So, whichever way it goes, it's a very clever way for him to support himself, being a child of nepotism, who made endlessly bad choices that became public, and had a lot of jobs that have nothing to do with any sort of skills he has. It's all his last name. And now his art is sold only on his last name.
It's a prodigal son.
Of course he does this. This is always available to him. And it's always available to a certain class of people. And doing the occult thing, is just kind of part of it. It's part of the signifying aspect of it, which is important. Now you might think we're just rambling about art. Okay, we're not just this is important. Okay, the art conversation is where this goes.
Let me just mention one more piece, and then we'll get back to the USA Today article and move on here. But he's got one called Alien, and it's
hold on, sorry to interrupt, but
Okay.
Caleb in the YouTube chat says at least he's not doing a podcast. At least he's not hosting. He might.
Well,
be.
he's a guest of a pod. He'll be on plenty of pod.
Yeah.
The Joe Rogan podcast is coming. It is. Okay, so yeah, this one's called The Alien, and it looks kind of like a native, I don't know, like an African native guy. He's got like a stick and a little robe with some face painting on. The sun,
like a Martian, looks like a Egyptian Martian.
Egyptian Martian. And then you got the sun. It's got, maybe some DMT action or something like that when you look up at the sky and you see some patterns. And a UFO, a single flying saucer disc in the air. So clearly, a lot of these things tapping into the milieu, the current milieu. So, okay, so back to the USA Today article here. I'm not going to read it all. There's he goes after Jake Tapper on CNN. That's a good
notable person who turned on Biden after everybody else did. A traitor of the Democrat Party, Jake Tapper.
Yeah, there's some stuff there. There's a picture. So somebody made AI art, Biden 2028. Let's smoke the competition. And the person who made the artwork had Hunter Biden with what looks like a crack pipe. Yeah, like a crack pipe in his mouth. Now, this is what I thought this was when he won over a lot of people, at least from sort of the more centrist, or, this was not to appeal necessarily to liberals, in my opinion. So here's what he said, and he's responding to people on X too, by the way. So he responded to this particular piece of art. He says, "I know this may sound petty, but I can't stand it when people put Photoshop a meth pipe in my mouth. A crack pipe doesn't have that little bowl at the end. This is why we can't trust AI. Please make the appropriate edit. Thank you for your attention to this matter."
Yeah, embracing what he's good at. This is a good lesson for everybody, right? We're all good at different things, and the world.
Okay.
But lean into what you know. Lean into
what you know.
Lean into what you're an expert in, and you'll be fine. This is Hunter correcting a critic on the difference between a meth pipe and a crack pipe.
And if you listen to some of his more recent interviews, he does talk. He'll we should have brought the clips, but he talks about how like, well, I don't want the audience to know how to make crack, but basically what you do is he starts going into the whole thing. So yes, lean into what you know, but also if you notice here, this is why we can't trust AI. He is a hand artist, right? Drawing this art by hand. And he's pushing back on AI, which is that our whole thesis of the renaissance of bringing back sort of,
it's the perfect example of the value of human-made art coming exactly in its scarcity, regaining
but also coming from a place of pain. You can't have art without
the human experience, right?
The human experience. Thank you. But you know what I mean, like a valley, so to speak, right? Because usually with art, what the most powerful pieces of art do is they capture a journey or the transformation or the darkest moments in life and things like that. So I'm not saying that that's exactly what Hunter went through and being the son of Joe Biden or anything, but that's the story being told, the narrative being told, and that the package deal with the narrative and the art and the anti-AI, it's just set up very well for 2028 and beyond. Well, thank you for your attention to this matter too, using that language, using the language of the
Well, and especially when you consider Hunter Biden, elite nepotism guy. His peers, his contemporaries, are all the ones investing in and encouraging the AI takeover, right? This is their brand is let's build the beast system. And Hunter Biden comes in and says, no, AI art bad. I'm the real artist here. And so really becoming a man of the people.
Well, that's the thing. That's what I'm saying. I noticed a lot more people
and more effective, way more effective. Hunter Biden is doing, coming from the depths of his, troubles, and coming out on this human side of things, doing significantly better than his contemporaries and peers and other nepo babies who are in the beast system construction business. Even Jared Kushner, building smart cities.
No good. Let me just wrap it up here. The younger Biden said in a post-pardon statement that he took, quote, responsibility for my mistakes during the darkest days of my addiction, mistakes that have been exploited to publicly humiliate and shame me and my family for political sport. Quote, in recovery, we can be given the opportunity to make amends where possible and rebuild our lives if we never take for granted the mercy that we have been afforded, Biden added. So there you go. He's the recovery is working, Basil. It's 2028. And he was asked directly, is he running in 2028? Well, he said no, which is exactly what you would say if you are actually going to run in 2028.
And here's the thing. Here's where this matters. What we're seeing with Hunter Biden seems impossible. Okay.
Yes.
For those who really know the whole story, not just the laptop, but going all the way back, his position is so diabolically bad and was laid out to the public for all to see in a way that the thing he should do is just go live his life, disappear, recover, do the thing. There is no logical reason that he should be able to bounce back like this, but it is precisely because we are exactly where we are right now. This would never work any other year. This would never work any other time. And you may say, oh, is it because of the political thing? Is it because of the war? Is it because of the AI art thing? Is it because of this?
No, those are all elements that were there before. It's just packaged better from right now. Yeah.
Right. To what we've been noting recently, and that is the age of re-enchantment. Okay.
Yep.
This would not work.
One thing before we go into that whole side of things.
Sure. Yeah. I guess this is related a little bit here.
Yeah. So this is part of it, but let's, he's sort of positioning himself as a little bit of the anti-technocratic guy, but there is one aspect of it where he is very much part of the technocracy.
Is this a crypto? Crypto? Do I look like like I know what a crypto is.
Now, one of the biggest voter bases from the young people during Trump's 2020 run, or I'm sorry, 2020, what is it? Yeah, 2024 run was the crypto bros. He got Bitcoin people on his side. And he said, Bitcoin, great Bitcoin, golden age, the whole thing, right? And of course, Bitcoin is down, and that's a normal crypto cycle thing. But a lot of crypto bros are not happy with Trump because, Trump came in, he scams everybody with the Trump coin. He takes all the liquidity from the market cycle, and, his family makes billions, and it's sort of the old thing all over again. They feel very, a lot of them are disgruntled. A lot of people that hopped on the MAGA bandwagon for crypto, they're upset. They're not happy with the way Trump has been handling the crypto situation. People ask Trump about crypto, and he starts talking about AI, and he starts talking about other things that doesn't really relate to crypto. But Hunter Biden is getting ahead of it here. This is Benzinga.com. Hunter Biden saving crypto? Beeple's art gets ex-president's son to open about accepting Bitcoin for his art. And just to make it real quick here, Hunter Biden, the crypto messiah? Beeple posted an artwork on X titled Hunter Biden Saving Crypto, which depicted Hunter Biden in a suit pulling a giant golden Bitcoin. And on the giant golden Bitcoin is Michael Saylor, who's a big proponent of Bitcoin, and Vitalik Buterin, who's the founder of Ethereum. Both have been not helpful to the crypto industry. Michael Saylor actually said, never sell your Bitcoin. And then he sold some of his Bitcoin last month, which ironically, there was some stuff about there was a poly market bet saying that Michael Saylor would sell some of his Bitcoin before June 1st, I think. And then, there was a payout because June 1st came and went. And then allegedly after the fact, we found out that he did in fact sell some Bitcoin before June 1st. Okay. And so the people that lost it are trying to get their money, but that's a whole separate thing. The point being, he is ahead of it in the crypto world. And that again seems to suggest that they're setting him up for the presidency, in my opinion. And it's part of the re-enchantment. It is part of the re-enchantment because it's
whether or not there's a presidency or not, but what we're watching is sort of this re-enchantment of Hunter Biden.
Of Hunter Biden for sure.
Working.
Yes. And because the bottom line being that crypto representing a change in the way we do currency
and an empowerment. The branding of it is empowerment of the little guy, right? Again, he's sort of this everyman, this hero of the everyman. And even though Trump was very pro crypto, and that's why all the crypto guys were on it, we're seeing this really astonishing sort of reorganizing of not just like politics, but of like ideology.
Yeah. Yep. So Joe Biden really appealing to all the people disgruntled with the Trump situation, which politically speaking is very clever. Whoever's behind this whole thing is very clever, taking advantage of the moment for sure. So
they're locked in. They probably listen to the show because everything, you could only pull this off if you knew what we knew. Now take all this together, and we're looking at history in the context of the coming technocratic beast system, of the harnessing of AI for control and culture's reaction and the manufacturing of consent. And especially recently, especially been listening to Clubhouse, I'm trying my best to stay and be optimistic because God, uses all these things for his own glory. And so we should be sort of optimistic or excited to see how that looks. However, there's also the perspectives. You can see there are other secular cultural humans trying so hard to find an optimistic way through this. And so in the context of art, in the context of currency, in the context of the age of re-enchantment, here's an article from Fast Company that I read and liked a lot, but thought, I have no idea how to bring this to the show. And then you had all this stuff on Hunter, and it just fits so perfectly. So Fast Company the headline is "Creativity is Currency." You just asked Hunter Biden. Creativity is currency. A couple of years ago, I started noticing a quiet anxiety beneath the surface of nearly every leadership conversation I was having. This article is very like Silicon Valley, by the way. It wasn't about talent pipelines or quarterly earnings. It was something more existential. The fear that in racing to adopt every new AI tool, organizations were inadvertently engineering the most human parts of their culture out of existence. The spreadsheets were getting smarter. The people felt less seen. They felt less seen.
The spreadsheet's getting smarter is
Amy.
the reason why
Amy,
that I
boss.
feel less seen. Wow, that
Employers,
is very, very Silicon Valley. But yeah, continue.
This tension sits at the heart of my new chapter, Algorithms and Awe. So apparently
Everyone's talking about awe, by the way. Everyone
that's
wants
the re-enchantment, baby. That's the re-enchantment.
Oh.
So he wrote a book and he's putting out a second version of his book, and he added a chapter called Algorithms and Awe. Even the implication of algorithms and awe is the sort of deification of technology, right? This is where this the spiritual meets the technological, which is a very old idea. In the second edition of The Creativity Leap, what I've come to believe through years of working with executives, researchers, entrepreneurs, is that we are not living through a technology revolution. We are actually living through a human revolution. And the leaders who understand the difference will be the ones who define the next decade. Now, the way he puts it is it's all very Silicon Valley. It's all very entrepreneur. It's all very corny, but it's also not necessarily wrong. Okay, so we'll give him a little bit of a pass for kind of the basic, pedantry in which he describes it. But it goes on. The ethics of ease. Every leap forward in technological convenience brings an ethical echo. I call our current moment the ethics of ease.
I'm sorry. Are we skipping the we are now in the imagination era?
Oh, I did miss that. Yes, I did.
It's not important. The only reason why
it is important. We are now in the imagination era. We have moved beyond the information age and are now firmly rooted in what I call the imagination era. This is very, very reminiscent of those first conversation we had today about data and data as a resource. And what is data? It exists in this invisible yet accessible realm, and it can be used for control. Imagination is just really another word for kind of the spiritual realm from a secular standpoint. The imagination is sort of this invisible realm that we all have access to, where we can really express the unseen spiritual things in our lives and in our minds in the imagination. And so what we're moving into is not the technocratic beast system, Armageddon era. It's the imagination era, already getting more re-enchanted. A time when ideas and thinking differently are a primary currency. In this landscape, technology is not replacing our humanity. It is demanding that we deepen it. So the only way out is through. Now, this is the first of many it's not X, it's Y statements that he uses in this article, telling me that AI had a hand in writing this article. It's really funny reading a lot of other AI articles. They're all pointing it out now, but 3 or 4 articles I read this past weekend, all being like, hey guys, I know the secret. I'll show you. I'll point it out to you how to tell it's AI. What they do is they say, it's not this, it's that. Ooh, didn't I decode this great for you? Yes,
what's sad though is that anytime, because that sort of use of language was somewhat common in regular writing or speaking or whatever, but now anytime anybody uses it, it's automatically going to be suspiciously AI.
Well, that's why the AI does it, right? The AI was trained to know that good creative writing is this sort of a dialectic. It's not this, it's that. It has to have a back and forth, much like the creation of our country, where it has this built-in battle between left and right, the different separation of powers. This is sort of core. This is part of our programming, is thinking in these. It's not this and that, which is what trained AI to think it's like the most valuable thing it could do.
Right.
It does it all the time. In this landscape, technology is not replacing our humanity. It is demanding that we deepen it. AI means, which is not wrong, but again, kind of corny the way to put it, because we have to lean, much like Hunter Biden, leaning in to what makes him so uniquely Hunter Biden, specifically his expertise in smoking crack. It is working very well for him. It is his only way out of this thing. And it is not wrong to say, hey, as we move in the technocratic beast system, we got to focus and operate through our strengths as human beings. As believers, we would say even more than our humanness is lean into the connection we have with God through Jesus Christ. But from a secular perspective, he's not necessarily wrong. AI means nothing without your imagination. It is a starting point, a lever for building new possibilities, not an endpoint. Very optimistic. At the 2025 Adobe Summit, Adobe CEO Shantanu Narayan declared that creativity is the new productivity. And for those who don't know, Adobe is a software company that makes lots of, it makes Photoshop, it makes Audition. It's what creatives use
Premiere,
to make things.
We use it. I use it.
I believe, whoops, I pressed a hyperlink. I believe he's right, and the implications are profound! Exclamation mark! You're not gonna believe this. I navigated away, came back, and it paywalled me. So I'm gonna click this nice little button that you gave me. I have my extension. Here we go. We're back.
Yep.
Creativity is the new productivity. I believe he's right, and the implications are profound. Success is no longer measured solely by speed or output. It is measured by our ability to forge emotional connections through imagination. The leaders who thrive won't be those who automate the most. They'll be those who imagine the best. Oh, I love it. Oh, I love it so much.
I love that my imagination is being commoditized. Great.
Imagine the best.
This is great.
You know, he doesn't do a great job of setting up the actual state of things and the actual stakes here. He kind of leaves a lot for the reader to assume, but you got to remember, we're in the context of robotics and AI about to make labor valueless, right? With robots, with factories, automation, even the old, go work at a factory is not going to be an option for anybody. So human labor is trending towards useless. And so, or valueless rather, in an economic sense, valueless. And so, what he's trying to shine a big shiny rainbow on here is to say, no, don't worry. And remember, he keeps talking about leaders. It's the leaders who thrive, not the workers who thrive. The leaders who thrive won't be those who automate the most, but they'll be those who imagine the best. Meaning, the elite, the ones who are going to be fine, the ones who, in this case, he wants as his customer, as his reader, where he sees value is the elite leadership class. He's not writing or talking to the average person, unlike Hunter Biden, but Hunter Biden knows exactly this. I can be Hunter Biden. I can make bad art. I can operate in the elite magical economy, and it's all my imagination. My value is in my imagination, which is not actually totally wrong. I think this is accessible on a practical level to everybody listening here. If AI and robotics is going to be a threat to the price of your labor, I think there is something to learn here, which is to lean into, well, what we would consider our spiritual lives as believers, our spiritual skills, but also, this great gift, our imagination, is the gift from God. It is our co-creative ability, and they don't want you working in it. In fact, we saw this happen with AI where making art became so easy and anybody could do it that the artists for this show, who would regularly make art for this show all the time and got value, put value back in, made the art, the second AI came out, they all stopped. And we actually banned AI art because we didn't want the AI artists to come in. But there's been a campaign in culture to demotivate real artists. And I see this in the exact same vein as robots and AI sort of demotivating labor, right? Where they want to save the value of imagination for the elite class because they know that it is. And, in the age of re-enchantment, this means many things, but it also means the real economy is going to be happening in the sort of invisible realm of the imagination. And by economy, I mean that literally, like the economic forces. Let me read just a couple more things. I'm realizing, I want to get to our next article even more, but let me make sure we have a nice solid base here. The ethics of ease, we talked about that. This creates what I describe as a creative double bind, a simultaneous desire to embrace AI's potential and a fear of being replaced by it. When we pursue ease without ethics, we erode the very wonder we seek to amplify. All about wonder. We got to keep the wonder. The antidote is what I call Wonder Rigger TM. He trademarked.
I know. I trade. Yeah. So
Wonder Rigger.
Yeah, so I went to the wonderrigger.com website is down, but Figure 8 apparently is like their, I don't know, parent company or something like that helped write this article from Fast Company. But yeah, there's a whole matrix here. You got an X and Y axis.
Okay, we don't need to go into Wonder Rigger, but it is a
I'm just saying that they trademarked the whole idea, which is, I don't know, man. It's
imagination. You can take his class, learn how to make money with your imagination.
It's a she. How dare you? It's a woman. Okay. But yeah, anyway.
Well, listen to, again, Age of Re-Enchantment. Listen to the rest of the thing here. The antidote is what I call Wonder Rigger, the alchemy that happens when technological innovation meets moral imagination. Wonder without rigor is fantasy.
Please.
Rigor without wonder is bureaucracy. The sweet spot is where the most durable creative work gets done.
Okay.
Trading for
it's not wrong, but it's just, I don't know, to systematize it and trademark it is another whole thing. So anyway.
The good news is that my reader cuts out after this next article, so we can stop it there. But this is where the best part is, the most corny best part. The most useful metaphor I've found for describing the human AI relationship is jazz.
Oh,
jazz, baby.
Jazz, yeah. What the conservatives can call devil's music.
Jazz. Specifically, the practice of trading force. Now she gets into a little bit of a practical way. How do you correctly use the beast system to profit here? In which musicians, the practice of trading force in which musicians take turns improvising 4 bars at a time. AI riffs and we respond. We lead and AI follows. Like great jazz, this collaboration requires a mastery of the rules and the courage to bend them. Oh yeah, baby, it's jazz. And it goes on. But the optimism coming again to leaders, to the elite class, to the Hunter Bidens, and Hunter Biden obviously has gotten this memo, is that, yeah, it's not going to look real good for the normal understanding of labor, because in a free market, Marx will tell you this, the thing for sale that most people have is their time, their labor. And as technology goes on, labor becomes less and less valuable. And I think we're seeing the age of re-enchantment become so popularized now, and we're seeing it after watching it grow and develop in places like Burning Man and other world's religious conversations. Carl Teichribb's work, of course, has been all over the place identifying this. And we're there. And for the leader class, the imagination, the thing that is human, is the only answer to thriving in it. And they talk about it quite blatantly in this, alchemy, imagination, wonder, rigor. This is what we must do to survive the AI apocalypse. And they're not necessarily wrong. But it is sort of being gate kept. If you want to know how to do this, you got to get my class on wonder rigor. You got to buy my book to learn how to use your imagination. It's so popular and so monetizable that Silicon Valley is making a fortune on it. But it's not just a secular thing, Guns.
Well, yes, it's very much in the church. It's arrived in the church. Just before we get there, and this is sort of a setup into that conversation, there's a section in the Fast Company article, awe is the competitive advantage you're not tracking.
Yeah.
Right? And it says AI is a new medium for knowledge work, but awe, that sparks of curiosity and connection that stops you mid-sentence and makes you lean in, remains wholly human. So you cannot automate wonder. You can only cultivate it or crowd it out. And, biblically speaking, there's a lot of different words that is translated into the English awe. There's like the reverence, there's the fear, there's like just a few different words for it. But one of them that I found is Psalm 33:8. Let all the earth fear the Lord. Let all the inhabitants of the world stand in awe of him. So there's fear, reverence. There's sort of a connection there, and not the negative type of fear necessarily, but just the proper word maybe is reverence.
Yeah, reverence and awe is generally the definition of fear when you see it in the Bible.
Right.
Fearing God.
And so how do you measure awe? Because in science and in technology, what technology does is it quantifies everything as measurable, like metrics. It adds a metric to everything. And so
this is the biggest economic question in Silicon Valley. You can tell they want to monetize awe. They want to make awe and wonder into a currency, right?
Yes,
like
exactly.
Yeah.
Right. So right now, a lot of it is based off surveys. Like you'll watch something or you'll be exposed to something, and on a scale of 1 to 10, give me how much awe you felt. Is it mild wonder, or was it strong reverence? Were you trembling? So it's almost like a personal thing, but because they want to brain chip us, those types of sort of non-physical things or emotional things and tied to maybe a moral thing are becoming more and more looked at as quantizable or measurable. And it goes back to data. It goes back to data.
And the brain chip thing too. Remember, they want to be able to press a button and manufacture
awe.
In a world where there's no labor to do and there's no meaning, therefore, the topic of meaning is an issue with work. A product of awe, to be able to sell awe, to create awe, wonder, these sorts of things, because especially in a secular world where Christ is not involved, where you're not participating in that direct access to awe and wonder in fear of the Lord, right? If you're staying secular, without awe and wonder, there's nothing. That you don't have anything. And their biggest fear for a long time is that people would notice that. And they would say, people are finding meaninglessness in this horrible culture and monetize, algorithms, and they're sitting there, they're depressed, they're killing themselves, they're doing all these horrible things. This is what happens when you lose on wonder, when you lose your disconnect, when you're disconnected from God. And so therefore, if we can find a way through the data, through the AI, to quantify awe and wonder and provide it as a product, we can keep everyone and everything in the secular space.
Paradigm,
we can still push God out through, again, technology, etc. And we can give the people what they've been lacking, what we've sucked from them, what we have vampirized from them. For a low subscription of $9.99 a month with your Neuralink, you can get the subscription to awe, and we can keep you where we need you, where we want you.
And you know what fast tracks that too is pharmakia, because you know, we both have past experiences with psychedelic drugs. What do you do? I mean, your hand becomes the most awe-inspiring thing, or the wall, or like a plant or something, right? So it's that's like the fast track ticket. They want everyone to have that experience for the most mundane things. That's the draw. Yeah.
That's the draw. And that's why when people do experiment with psychedelics, that's what often makes them a little bit unusable in society, right? They'll get a little new age, they'll stop caring about their job a little bit, they'll kind of go off the deep end. And from the 70s until, you know, maybe the 2010s or so, this was a big problem, super duper illegal. But they figured out that if the government deregulates,
make it cool culturally.
If the culture of Silicon Valley, if through the network state technology, you can kind of not mitigate, but mediate. You can mediate,
manage it,
with awe through, you know, whatever ketamine therapy, or this is why Silicon Valley is like the most this is where, honestly, for America, San Francisco, the Bay Area, this is one of, if not the largest sort of capitals for the popularization of pharmakia. And it's no surprise that that's where the technology came from too. Going back of course, to our study of the cyberneticists of the mid-20th century, using technology to summon demons and open portals and things.
You don't adapt to the future, you compose it. When we pair the alchemy of algorithms with the discipline of awe, something remarkable happens. We don't just adapt to the future, we compose it.
Thank you.
Be a Mary Poppins, like a song, maybe. Re-Enchant. Yeah, there you go, it works. You're there's nothing you can do. You're re-enchantment. Listen to your it's when we're here. To do the best we can. And so everything you know. Re-enchantmentatious.
To transition for you here, to take us into this next article, this is the secular Silicon Valley beast system version of the recognition of the age of re-enchantment. You've got millions of people experiencing re-enchantment in their lives, their understandings of what's going on, et cetera, et cetera. And we learned, of course, of this forthcoming a decade or more ago from Carl Teichrieb, who leads a research project at Burning Man, because Burning Man is a petri dish for all sorts of global culture experiments. And when he saw this in his research, the point was not that, look at these funny hippies in Burning Man, but you can foresee from the cultural experiments there what is soon to come for broader culture. And when that re-enchantment of that was cultivated in Burning Man makes it to broader culture, this is sort of the yearning. And on top of that, like we saw with psychedelics and Jesus and psychedelics in the church, years before it popped up in the news, because of the Burning Man research, it's also part of Carl's research that not only is this re-enchantment going to come to culture, but it's also going to go through a process in the church itself, because everything they want to do in broader culture, they strategize a version of it to infiltrate in the church, the global church, the American church. And what better representation of what mainstream Christianity is wrestling with on sort of a, I'd say a broad sort of, I don't know what to call it exactly.
Like
a
the
broad,
milieu.
a institutional level, I'll say. A broad institutional level than reading Christianity Today.
Oh, yes. Yes.
It's got to be biblical.
Now, to set this up as well, you know, if you've been around here long enough, you know some of our mentors and stuff. So in my hand is the book The Unseen Realm by Dr. Michael S. Heiser. Of course, he really showed us the supernatural worldview of the ancient Near East and what the biblical audience of the time when a lot of these things were written down, what they believed the supernatural worldview was. And then in the my other hand here is The Game of Gods by Carl Teichrieb, The Temple of Man in the Age of Re-Enchantment. So keep, we have a little foundation here, but let's see what Christianity Today has to say in this article. Only Christ can re-enchant downcast hearts.
Oh, it's an interesting little mixing here, an interesting little sprinkle of the Burning Man into the Christian conversation here. Okay.
Beautiful book cover here of his book, Unseen Existences.
Oh, because Unseen Realm was taken? Is that
Unseen
why?
Realm was taken, so yeah, Unseen Existences of Heaven, Earth, and the Divine Mystery of All Things by Brian Zand. So here's what it says. Growing up in Sunday school, I was taught, like many, that the answer to every question is always Jesus. Lately, a growing chorus of Christian writers is offering another answer to the challenges of our modern age. Re-enchantment. You've got to be kidding me. I mean, Carl Teichrieb is probably throwing stones at walls or something. He's like, you've been trying to tell. I tried to tell you.
Well, we got to get him on. We got to talk.
We got to get him on. Where are you, Carl? We got to get
Carl?
him on. Where's Carl? Pastor and author Brian Zand, Unseen Existences is the latest edition. Zand's offering is a welcome one, for his vision of re-enchantment is notably Christocentric. Okay. The answer to
that word notably is interesting. To put it, there's a lot in this article. Okay. But for them to say, talking about the re-enchantment and calling it notably Christocentric is implying that the re-enchantment, as you might understand it, is not Christocentric.
Right.
You might be seeing
even from Christian authors. That's the setup of this whole thing, right? That there's a lot of Christian authors bringing up the re-enchantment, but Brian Zand does it a little different. He's bringing it up notably Christocentric.
Notably Christocentric, meaning there's a lot of not Christocentric re-enchantment going around.
Yeah.
Okay.
The answer to our existential discontent and ecclesial malaise is to attend to the unseen spiritual realities of this world in which we will encounter the God revealed in Jesus Christ. Okay. All right. That makes sense. For Zand, unseen realities are less a matter of cosmological speculation. Think angels versus demons, which is such a low.
Call that speculation, but okay.
Yes, but yeah. And it's kind of a low hanging fruit kind of way to describe it too. And more foundationally, a matter of human identity and destiny. Okay, don't worry, guys. We're not in a spiritual battle or anything. We don't wrestle against flesh and against flesh and blood, but
and to be fair, this is gonna be. You might be expecting us to read this article and just bash this guy all the way through, which is not going to happen. We wrestled with this quite a bit because we want to just be able to criticize this thing all the way through, but it's much more subtle than that, and I think it's it's suspicious. I am suspicious of this whole thing. However, the operation in place, it could still go either way. I don't want to be unnecessarily skeptical or pessimistic about this, but I am inherently suspicious, but we will not be able to say we disagree with everything this guy says.
Yeah. Also, this is an open invitation to get Brian Zand onto the podcast. We would love to have a conversation with him. Quote, if matter is all there is, Zand writes, quote, then not much really matters. This is I think this is like an old apologetic thing with
I mean, it goes again about what we just talked about, right? The awe.
The awe, right. To embrace the truth that, quote, a spiritual world underlies what we think of as the ordinary world, end quote, is to reject the lies of human futility and journey toward human fulfillment. Okay. All right. And we don't have to break down every sentence, but it's funny because it is kind of, there are a lot of agreeable things in this, but there's also little bits and pieces where like my head just kind of goes, okay, all right. Yeah. Zand is correct. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, we'll just hit the big ones here.
Okay, yeah. Zand is correct to note this perspective is not, quote, a new idea. The earliest Christians acknowledged that the existence and presence of the spiritual beyond and in our world demonstrates we are made for life with the one who created all things, visible and invisible, Colossians 1:16. The telos for which we are or were created is real, yet unseen, an ever deepening union with God, which necessitates a pilgrimage toward heaven, but not in the way many American churchgoers might think. Okay, all right, so he's sort of setting things up. It does feel like this would have been a little more radical in like 2005 or something.
Yeah, it feels that's kind of part of it. Is for us, it's catching up. So we're gonna try not to critique it on that basis.
Getting heaven right is a foundational aim of unseen existences. Heaven, Zand argues, is, quote, all around us. It is not a far-off place, but, quote, a different dimension, one of, quote, unseen existences. I mean, he really just could have said unseen realm, but I'm sure he knows that that phrase is taken. Zand's early argument lays out the various forms of relating to heaven and earth, an escapist faith at this world or earthly faith, and Zand's retrieval vision of a re-enchanted faith. So, so there's a little bit, the nuances are so palpable for us, right? Because we've been talking about the re-enchantments culturally and societally. And of course, Carl talking about it in the context of the church, he was always warning the church not to get sucked into the cultural patterns of re-enchantment, because truly, I mean, the biblical view of things is to have awe over what God created and awe over God and things like that, not worship it, not worship creation, but I'm saying like things like heaven, things like understanding a different realm exists apart from the physical realm and stuff like that. Those are things that have been well understood from our perspective in our research and study. So that those things were never separate, you know, in my mind anyway, as long as we've been doing this. Those things have been like a presupposition to all of our conversations.
And
so,
what's not mentioned that serves as a good sort of Canary Cry foundation is he's talking about, how I would describe kind of the 2016 sort of Christian deconstructionist era, where it was very popular to take, people who've been Christian for a long time or something, they'll deconstruct their Christianity, they'll take it apart, and then they will build it back with the pieces, but they'll build it in a way so it's good for society, that it fits in with the zeitgeist, that it fits in better with modern civilization, and how no, we want a Christianity that is good for the world as it's as like a social,
almost a political
construct, right? And then as an addition to that background, past couple years we've seen again the major sort of revival of interest in Christendom, lots of people becoming Christian, and yet it's sort of taking on this specifically political flair, right? They kind of come to Christianity through politics, and then they wear the Crusader cross, and they say, we need to make everything Christian again to fight back against the leftist degeneracy in sort of a physical way here. So there's been this obsession for about 10 years to find and have a Christianity that is very specifically here to fit into the world that we want to live in.
Right. The height of deconstructionism, like faith deconstructionism, was sort of the progressive era, to fit that sort of liberal progressive mindset or culture. So that's when a lot of that was taking place. And the hyper
bro version today is kind of like that, only for a conservative.
Well, but it's almost the opposite direction, where it almost went dominionist the other way.
Right.
Where it's like we got to take dominion of culture, and so it's interesting how the pendulum swung so extreme on both sides. And in that respect, I think Zand is right. Same but different. To that respect, I think Zand here is identifying the issue and sort of parsing out those things. So Zand helps readers by explaining these options from both personal and theological reflection. This isn't his first rodeo, and he's fallen in at least one of the pitfalls he describes regarding an escapist faith. Zand describes inheriting a, quote, modern and impoverished Christian notion of heaven in which this earthly life is essentially, quote, an elaborate SAT test for afterlife placement. Sounds like workspace salvation. Zand reveals he preached this notion of faith for nearly 2 decades. Hey, you know what? I have respect for anybody who changes their view after 2 decades of preaching something. That is not something people do comfortably. So
totally. So kudos to the guy.
Said that.
And he's talking about what Heiser also talked about, which was afterlife insurance.
Yes, very much so.
Christianity just as afterlife insurance. So he's kind of setting up this dichotomy between a Christianity that is strictly political, that is strictly to fit into culture, or specifically, change culture in a sort of earthly centric way,
right.
And a Christianity that is so heavenly minded that it's no earthly good. Right? He's talking about this sort of balance.
Alternatively, an earthly faith centers a view of salvation which shapes every sphere of life here and now. Many Christians evolve from forms of escapism to inhabit a this world faith. This progression toward an embodied faith is positive, but not without dangers. Overcorrection is Zand's explicit impetus for this book. Zand voices his pastoral concern as such. There's a block quote here. If in our zeal for a this world faith, we lose sight of heaven, we have made a fatal mistake. We must make sure that we are not using an earthly faith to mask a subtle capitulation to the spirit of the age.
Amen.
Okay, he's thinking deeply about this, so I appreciate that.
I like
Zand believes many Christians are embarrassed by the hope of heaven. Yeah, maybe like the 90s or something. I don't know so much now, but maybe
that's part of the deconstructionist thing. So they're embarrassed of this sort of supernatural idea that they're just hoping to get to heaven, and so they wanted to make something more culturally relevant.
Oh yeah, like comedians making fun of Christians wanting to be in the clouds and the spaghetti monster and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. The result of that embarrassment is capitulation, which leads to believers walking in lockstep with, quote, a zeitgeist that insists that the sole relevance of religion is found in its social value. So he's pushing back against the whole progressive,
which is what we're seeing in certain ways today, right?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Though Zand doesn't make this point explicitly, thank you, author of this article, it's easy to connect the dots. We witness the rotten fruit of this capitulation in American political parties that view Christianity as a tool for the construction of an earthly utopia made by human hands. And that is the sort of Christian nationalist thing. Without saying it, I think that's what they're referring to.
Or at least a version of it. Yeah.
A version of it, right. An escapist faith runs the danger of pulling our practice of Christianity out of this world. An earthly faith can appear more sophisticated, but runs the risk of buffering itself within temporal concerns, losing sight of the fact that Christians are pilgrims who long for a better city to come, not builders who construct that city by their own might. Hebrews 13:14.
An oddly contentious thing to say. Even within myself, I'm a little bit, I have to contend with that, but I see the point. And I see the point.
Yeah. The answer to these pitfalls is not to split the difference. Instead, unseen existences prescribes a turn toward re-enchantment via divine mystery.
Now, this is one of those words I just want to mention.
Yes.
Divine mystery is one of those words with a vibe that can make a lot of people uncomfortable. But also is a very traditional and very important, long-standing, thousands of years part of Christian vocabulary, even with the total acceptable, understandable statement of like God is so big that we can never fully understand or characterize him, right? Even on that basic level, it can be referred to as the divine mystery. We try our whole lives to try to understand and intellectualize every aspect of God, but the fact is we will never be able to do it in this life, and that's kind of the point. That's the way that God set it up. And for me, that's what sort of the divine mystery explains.
Yeah, that's sort of the early church fathers version of it. And I think we should distinguish divine mystery, sort of the theological concept, with a more divine mysticism, which is more of like an experiential thing where you're searching for like a mystical type of
It's a very
experience.
subtle conversation.
It's a very subtle conversation, yeah. As defined by the early Christians, mystery implies realities behind what we see, something unveiled which we receive and in which we participate, though not exhaustively. Retrieving and embracing the mystery of a robustly re-enchanted faith is the medicine that will heal our tendency toward escapism and capitulation. He's finding the narrow path. As a result, Zan's entire project rests upon a sacramental worldview, though not explicitly named as such. I love this author who just kind of like puts words in his mouth.
I know, that's kind of the thing. I do want to say now before I forget that it's possible that Zand might be carrying forward one more step the maybe the mission of Heiser or the tradition of Heiser. But we're getting it through this one layer removed by the article author, right? So that's part of why I want to reserve most of my critiques for the whole thing until maybe I read the book and see, because it could be one of two things. Zand, who's already admitted to changing his mind on things, and that's good, you know, it's good to be honest about that. Zand may be just taking the next step in the maybe academic process that started with Heiser, or was maybe last present with Heiser himself, and, you know, extending Heiser's work. That might be possible. I fear, and maybe not the opposite, but the other option would be that he's standing on the shoulder of Heiser, who has become much more well-known, much more respected in recent years, is a huge part of mainstream Christian thought now, and maybe twisting a little bit, you know, and I won't know until I read the book. It's either a like respectful, noble next step in the Heiser legacy, or he might be kind of putting his own spin on it and have some things I might disagree in there. I don't know which one of those two is yet, and I won't know until we actually read the book.
In seminary circuits today, and I know this because I tried to earlier, was it this year or maybe it was the end of last year? My wife and I went through what was supposed to be kind of like a seminary type of thing, like an online course thing, through like a semi-official type of thing. And we noticed right away that a lot of it was very just, especially the spiritual formation stuff. Yeah, it's like woo-woo stuff. It's like new agey. It's all like, what?
A little too much of the new age form.
Yeah, exactly. It's a lot of the mysticism. It's a lot of like Richard Rohr and like this stuff that's not really solid foundationally biblically. So maybe Zand notices the gap there and is trying to bridge that a little bit.
That's what I would be worried if he's coming and he's taking sort of a Mike Heiser starting point and then getting a little weird with it. That's what
right. Because Mike's stuff is not, I mean, his stuff is very
scholarly, very straightforward.
Scholarly. It's taking the ancient text. He's
hard to argue with.
Forming the worldview of the early believers or the people, the direct audience of the writings.
So hard to argue with academically, by the way, that anybody who tries, and there's been a ton of
we just had one a couple weeks ago.
Online,
yes. Oh my gosh.
A ton of it in the conversation, and it's hilarious.
It's pathetic. It's pathetic.
His academics in his books is so thorough and so hard to argue that everybody who's online arguing against Heiser, calling him a heretic, has obviously never read the book. And they have no idea what the actual thing, and they'll admit it. Like that's how hard it is to argue, is because for those who actually read it, they don't argue with it. Only the people who've never read it come on and try to call him a heretic.
It's crazy. Yeah, we had a little stint of that a couple weeks ago when one of the co-founders of Wikipedia is out there trying to criticize Mike Heiser's work and completely tearing down a straw man that he built. Yeah. That's what they have to do to make an argument. They gotta say something he never said and then tear it all down and say everyone who follows Heiser is a heretic and, you know, whatever. But it was unbelievable how pathetic the attempts were to really push back on it. And self-admitted that they never read Heiser's work.
No
How are you
shame,
going to
too.
critique something if you never read their work? I mean, that's like 101 debate stuff.
No
Anyway,
shame at all, too.
no
They'll just
shame.
say,
Yeah,
you
just
say,
I don't like
actually,
him.
you came back and you're like, actually, this and that, and if you read the book,
Oh,
it's
I had a
that,
whole
that's
thing.
not what
Yeah.
you think. And he just goes like, oh yeah, I didn't read it. I just don't like
Oh,
it.
he blocked me. He was like, block. I'm not going to have my followers get some logic into this whole conversation.
Anywho, okay. I mean,
anyways,
look, we feel we apparently feel that it's our duty to defend Mike Heiser every opportunity.
we don't need to defend Mike
It
Heiser.
might not be our job, but
it's not our job. It's not. It's really not. Okay, back to the article here. As a result, Zand's entire project rests upon the sacramental worldview, though not explicitly named as such. Even so, the essentials are present. Zand teaches that heaven is near. This means the beauty of this world participates in and points to the greater reality to come. Okay. This sacramental outlook portrays this world as a heavenly participation. Okay, yeah. That kind of taps into Heiser's imagers of God talking points.
Actively participating all the time.
Active participants. To borrow from the theologian Hans Boersma, whom Zand cites approvingly, this view protects believers from escapism. Since the world is, as Gerard Manley Hopkins wrote, quote, charged with the grandeur of God, our task is not to escape, but to rejoice and receive. At the same time, this view also protects believers from thinking the fullness of heaven will reunite with earth through our activism.
Love it.
Sacramental, yeah, I think that's good.
We
there.
can't activist our way into heaven, which is something that in a lot of Christian churches recently, whether they're sort of on the left or the right, this idea that our activism will bring heaven to earth is really missing the point.
Yeah, like a modern crusade type thing. Sacramental worldview reveals the transcendence of ordinary life with God here and now, while teaching us to ache for the world to come when we see our Lord face to face. So, all right, that's
and this is why this is in a way, again, the way the author of this article is describing it is what is pulling it away from the potential for the woo-woo, right?
Right.
You start talking about heaven as interdimensional. You start thinking, oh, if I open my third eye, if I that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
And that's the fear with the re-enchantment of the church. That's my unease with this idea of the re-enchantment of the church, even though I myself has been fighting for almost 15 years for the church to come back to the supernatural worldview, which many churches have eschewed. They will ignore the supernatural worldview because they want their faith to be strictly material concern, of activism concern, of that sort of thing. So it's funny because, of course, we've been sitting here going, yes, the supernatural worldview needs to make it back to the church. And then I read this and I go, oh, I hope it's not a bad kind of re-enchantment.
Yeah, well, this is where we were talking about the awe is a type of metric for all of this. This is where this article goes into that as well. Swiss theologian Karl Barth said, no theologian can function without wonder. And if capable of astonishment, even, quote, a poor theologian is not lost to the fulfillment of his task. The same applies to believers. We may struggle mightily, but if we cultivate wonder in our life with God, we're far from hopeless. Many of the chapters Zand offers are a training ground for increased wonder, encouraging primers on receiving and rejoicing in the beauty of divine presence in the tangible grime of glory of this world.
Grime
and
and
glory of this world.
That's the key paragraph. Once we start seeing the language of wonder, of awe, we just saw it in the last secular article where they want to quantify, monetize, and sell wonder and awe to combat the inherent darkness and meaninglessness of the beast system. And now we're talking about bringing wonder and awe back into the church. Of course, this is how it is. Once you get into the supernatural worldview, you've got the things of God, the purpose that God has put into our lives and into creation. And then you've got the counterfeit of the adversary, where the adversary wants to get wonder and awe, brand it for himself, and use it for his own purposes. And yet, those same words, wonder and awe, should be a normal, everyday part of a good, solid Christian theological experience.
Right. For Zand, a sense of wonder is essential. Quote, to sustain faith in the midst of a cynical age, we must have experience of religious awe. Literally the same word, awe.
Yeah.
Readers might therefore expect Zand to turn his attention immediately and perhaps exclusively to the wonder of God's creation. And while Zand dedicates an entire chapter to the refrain that all creation is a gift, the foundational source of wonder and awe is Christ. For Zand, quote, the greater wonder of all, or the greatest wonder of all, is to be found in the mystery of the incarnation.
Love it. Love it.
I think
Avoid the worship of creation, which,
Mhm.
is people yelled at me for that for a while because I was talking about how, the rocks will cry out. And what do you mean the rocks will, people don't read their
says
Bible.
it in scripture there.
Yeah, people don't read their Bibles. You talk about how the rocks will cry out and worship
Yeah.
God. People think you're going to worship pantheistically, nature
Right,
or something.
yeah.
But you can tell is that there's some attention being paid here, and says, yes, while nature and creation is filled with the wonder and glory of God, the greatest wonder of all is to be found in the mystery of the incarnation, meaning Jesus Christ.
It's really interesting that there may be some differences here, methodology or whatever's going on. But if you can ground it in Christ, there is something agreeable that sort of transcends all of it. It's very interesting how that works.
Yeah, that's the point.
This Jesus-centered answer is important in both its conclusion and its methodology. One of the strengths of this book is that Zand is marked by a constellation of influences. The patristics' loving attentiveness to Scripture's details. Pentecostalism's emphasis upon the experiential. Eastern Orthodoxy's focus on mystery and participation. The method by which Zand arrives at the beautiful, proper conclusion that the Word made flesh is the supreme wonder is indicative of his diverse influences and unique pilgrimage as a Christian and pastor.
Now, this part tripped me out because those who are, really clued in and they're listening to us all the time, you will have heard me over the past couple of years talk about Eastern Orthodoxy and how curious, just academically, I want to know more about it. It's very popular. It's gaining a lot of converts recently. It's a huge part of the recent sort of revival thing. And I'm so curious about it. There's lots of things that are very interested. Not saying that I want to convert to Orthodoxy, but as someone who wants to analyze what's going on, I'm very curious. And of course, if you know my history, I grew up in the Pentecostal tradition. And so, listing this guy's bona fides, I'm like, this sounds kind of interesting. Sounds like, I don't know, like this guy's maybe been seeing some similar things that I've been seeing.
Basil Zand Rosewater is his real name.
That's why I'm scared. I'll be so disappointed if it's, gets all woo-woo and weird.
As Zand recounts, it was while gazing upon the beauty of the never summer mountains that he petitioned God that he might live always in a state of wonder, only to hear a whispered reply, "This is the greatest wonder of all. The Word became flesh and dwelt among us." It's a safe bet that in the hands of another writer, this point would be made strictly based upon John 1. The adventure of reading unseen existences is the many streams that shape Zand's own spiritual reflections and pilgrimage. What sort of specific guidance can readers as pilgrims on the way expect from unseen existences? A good guide offers wisdom seasoned by experience. Perhaps nowhere is that goodness clearer than in Zand's caution that the spiritual life is a pilgrimage with an unalterable pace. It is slow. Pushing against modernity's love affair with technique and optimization, Zand instructs by testimony and exhortation that our journey is indeed a journey, one in which we slowly comprehend the way of the kingdom. How Zand makes this point is another gift for fellow pilgrims. It features a deep love for scripture in its beauty and complexity. Zand even mines difficult text like Judges 19 in a reading that is historical, Christocentric, and canonical. This is a valuable model for pilgrims.
Kind of sounds like a heiser.
A lot of
So-
pilgrim talk, yeah. While Zan's many influences are predominantly a gift, there is one notable place where readers may be more confused than helped.
Oh, here we go.
Zand references apokata. Oh my gosh.
Apokatastasis.
Apokatastasis, Acts 3:21. Well and good. The term speaks to the restoration of all things, which, for some patristic, Orthodox, and contemporary theologians, can include universal salvation. My issue is, all right, Christianity Today writer, Zand.
It's just, yeah, universalism here.
Universalism, yeah, the Rob Bell, love wins type of thing, right? My issue is Zand uses the term without much of an explanation. I foresee this omission leaving unfamiliar readers confused and leaving conversant readers dissatisfied by a lack of elaboration in the footnotes or otherwise. Perhaps a concluding chapter exploring the final destination of the soul's pilgrimage, the beatific vision. Ooh,
weird. I just did a whole
didn't you just do a whole thing on that? Yeah,
it's tripping me out too, because the way they're describing this, he's saying he uses this word, but he doesn't describe it. I fear that people might not understand him or take him wrong. Like, yeah, bro, that happens to me every single week. People come and yell at me thinking, I use a word or I say something and they think I mean something totally different. Like, yeah, dude, of course that's gonna happen.
That's just part of being a podcaster, to be honest.
Yeah, especially the universalism thing. Somebody being a podcast, what is he, a universalist? You're going to hell or something. Like, I get that all the time.
The beatific vision of the new heaven and earth would have served as a place for discussing the scope of restoration, in addition to solidifying more explicitly the embodied hope of our spiritual journey. There's also another place where I craved more elaboration. For all the book's emphasis on mystery and re-enchantment, robust reflection on God's presence and action in the dominical sacraments, particularly communion, feels lacking. Man, this person has some real
it's interesting.
Solid presuppositions.
He's very ecclesiastically concerned, right? There's a lot of ecclesiastic language here, talking about very specific, like almost church bureaucracy. Like,
I get what you're saying, but what are we supposed to do? What do we do with the rosary? What do we do with the every ritual? It's like every little thing. While reading, I eagerly anticipated places where Zand might set his pen loose in detailed fashion on the topic of the Lord's table as mystery encountered. Though there are a few interspersed moments, the opportunity feels missed for readers to grasp how communion, as a means of sacramental grace, strengthens us in our pilgrimage. Stuff like that. Everyone's a critic. I mean, stuff like that also. I will say that with Heiser's work, because it is more academic, but without having to explain the minutia of like a ritual or a practice of any kind, I think Mike does a good job of providing such a foundational basis for a lot of things, like baptism, for example, that the specifics don't matter as much. Like as long as you get the theological meat, like it doesn't. Who cares if you have a little bit of barbecue sauce or just some salt on there or something? Right. I was surprised a discussion of communion did not include the quote into the wonder chapter, which instead ends with Zand's quote personal testimony of a mystical experience while praying with, not to, a Christ Pantocrator icon. So this is Orthodox thing, right? This is like the icon stuff. It's more likely readers.
Again, one of the things I'm very interested with Orthodoxy, just to like understand exactly what their theology is around it, because it's very easy for us to go,
stuff.
Idols bad,
right? Yes. No, there's a real rich tradition,
easy, but it's very rich, and I want to learn from it from somebody who's actually, I want to have a good faith conversation. I did. Jay Dyer, one of our old buddies, too. Just currently, I saw some content of his talking with Kat Von D, who is apparently Orthodox now, and they're talking about icons and things. I whether theologically sound or not, I at least liked what the conversation.
The concept is interesting. It's almost like I don't know, we don't have to get into it, but it's like it feels like a cultural response to some certain things going on.
Totally. That was kind of at least what I got from Jay was like, the icons, the Orthodox icons, like they're not divine, like they're not magical or anything like that. But in the institution of the Orthodox Church, they are very helpful because, especially when nobody could read, when in a world where nobody could read, and so they could only get the gospel with somebody telling them, having the icons and the artwork of the gospel would let an illiterate person look at the art and like experience the story of the gospel in a way when they couldn't read. I like that.
Yeah, no, and there's a rich tradition of not changing anything with the way the art is made. It's a succession there too.
Yeah.
So it's
Caleb,
pretty fascinating stuff.
Caleb in the chat says Jay Dyer is the man. You guys got to get him on. Yeah, we've had him on a couple times.
I've had him on a couple times. Yeah,
maybe more, but yeah, I would love to get him on again.
Okay, so continuing on here, it's more likely readers would benefit from deep reflection on the divine wonder of Christ in the Eucharist than from an admittedly breathtaking testimony, since it's not every week believers have a mystical moment, if ever, but every Sunday believers gather humbly in a heavenly meal or for a heavenly meal. Still, I can't help but note that Zand points to Christ even in such a mystical moment. On the whole, this book is a valuable primer on sacramental Christianity, a welcome mediation on the mystery of and presence of Christ in creation, in the scriptures, and even in mystical moments as the true wonder and answer to all things.
So one other option here is that the language of mystery, the language, even the very old, not just modern woo-woo language, but very old, classical, traditional Christian language of mystery, might be a way to invite those, even in the church, but maybe outside the church, who are experiencing their own version of re-enchantment, whether it's like a Mike Heiser understanding of the realm, or maybe they're coming from a little woo-woo side and like they're kind of getting re-enchanted with on the cultural side or the Silicon Valley side, maybe the language of mystery and awe and wonder and mystical moments,
putting words to the experience.
Hopefully the best case scenario is that with those words, drawing in maybe somebody at risk of woo-woo and then drawing them directly to Christ and not something else, right? That could be beneficial. And this is interesting because we read this whole article, and it's definitely an article. If our MO was to just like want to tear apart stuff in this guy, we wouldn't have read the whole thing, right? We read the whole thing because it's rounding out the analysis that we have of the age of re-enchantment, the Silicon Valley re-enchantment, and then we have the re-enchantment of Christians, of the world. And of course, of the church rather. And where, of course, we're suspicious of everything and we are scared everything's going to go wonky. There may be a way, and I would hope that, that things could go the right direction for the church as a whole. But I did just order the book on Amazon. So
you did? Okay, great. Yeah, that'll be fantastic. And yeah, we'll reach out to him.
Figure it out.
We'll reach out to him and see if we can get him on. But yeah, I think there is maybe some common ground there, but there may be some differences too, or maybe some differences of emphasis, of focus. I mean, Heiser's work is more about the cosmic war and about the interaction of the rebellious entities with the human race and how God intervenes with all of it. And
its very purpose is to understand the Bible. Right?
The Bible, right.
Yes. His thing is like, hey, you got to know all this, and even to understand the words of a lot of scripture, that gets a little wonky, right? There's not a whole lot of Heiser going like, hey, if you know about Genesis 6, then you'll have a mystical moment in the forest.
Right. Exactly. I think that's where Zand is maybe looking for, or maybe a reader of Zand that has some kind of mystical experience and needs to ground such things in Christ might have, I don't know, some words or some ways
legit, man.
Yeah, that's legit. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm saying it's
totally, I've told my stories,
useful.
Totally amazing, mystical, unexplainable experiences with God. And, I don't talk about them all the time because I always get people yelling at me But that experience is happening all the time. It happened in the scriptures, happened in early Christianity, and it's happening today. Now, I will say real quick that we were going to call an audible on this, but I don't know if we need to play the clip. I maybe actually rather not.
It's
But just
30
another
seconds, but yeah.
just another example of the age of re-enchantment, all the different ways everybody's getting targeted in the age of re-enchantment. Nobody's going to escape it. Everybody's going to have to wrestle with it. And another example of this is the alien disclosure topic.
You don't know what you're looking at.
What's driving that thing? It's not a space alien.
Aliens. It's unidentified.
Very much so.
The mainstream conversation from the government and from Hollywood, as we'll play this clip in a second, people are being invited into the age of re-enchantment from this angle of aliens. Hey, if disclosure happens, that's going to be a whole new can of worms for people living their lives in a new re-enchanted way. And here's just a clip from Steven Spielberg, who's still going out there claiming to be he seems to be acting like he knows more than I think maybe he does, but who knows? Maybe he does.
Well, he's been doing this type of research since the 70s when he made the first third encounter of the third kind, whatever. He was briefed by Jack Fillet and things like that for that first movie. So, according to him, he's been an operative in this regard for many years, but here he is.
No sound.
Oh, great. Of course, there's no sound. Let me remove that. Let me completely get rid of this thing. How do I get rid of it? Stop screen sharing. Restart screen sharing. This is fun for the listeners. This is exciting. Here we go. Back at it. Let's start this over again.
This truth were just known overnight. If the government announced, yes, we have been keeping this from you since 1947, that would mess up a lot of people. And the movie also takes the position of the church. What does this do to the fundamental beliefs that many of us have? And, is God our God only on this planet? Or is God a God for every system where there's civilization, intelligent life, and even developing life? This truth
there you go. I mean, that's a little 30-second snippet. There's other parts to this interview.
It's fun because this has been a conversation we've been having for a long, long time. This was a super fringy, weird online conversation. If aliens are real, what does that mean for Christians? And it's totally mainstream now. And Steven Spielberg is saying, his movie comes out next weekend, and he's saying, no, in the movie, we actually take the
position of the church.
Saying he's, in his mind, he's going to be representing. Now, obviously, he's talking about the position of the Catholic Church, which is actually pretty open and clear about their position about the church, or at least open about the conversation, whereas Protestants are not very open about the conversation. The most you get out of an official thing for Protestants and their talk about the possibility of aliens is we get the misreported bad social media trending topic of a bunch of pastors meeting with intelligence officials, which never happened the way people said it was, so but yeah, that's one other angle, one other version of just how drastic the implication of this age of re-enchantment is. So
it is really interesting. You say, I guess, taking on the position of the Catholics, but Steven Spielberg himself is Jewish. He's went to Hebrew school, and he's describes himself as background of Reform and Orthodox Judaism. So,
interesting. Okay,
yeah, just to add a little extra thing.
Well, there we go. I think that's what we got for today. I love the way the show's kind of been adjusting and evolving recently. I like having the opportunity to do these sort of deeper cultural analytical discussions instead of just running through headlines. I hope you guys like it too. I saw some good comments as they flew by there. But of course, if this is something you value, let us know. And of course, produce the show, because we can't do it without the producers. Again, go to canarycry.support, support the show in any way you can. And I want to take a second and thank some of our producers that give of their time and of their talent to make this show happen. Okay. Let's go ahead and start with the timestampers.
Timestamp, it's hard work. Timestamp.
Yes.
I believe it was
Jade Bouncerson came in to do the timestamps for episode 946.
Thank you, Jade Bouncerson. Big shout out to the tech team. Thank you very much, tech team. I know I got to get back to you guys. But of course, thank you to Jam, who heads up the Telegram channel. Adam42 heads up the Discord channel. A big shout out to all the Canarians over at canarycry.community. If you're not getting connected with the Canarians, of course, go do it now. You're missing out. Go to canarycry.party to find the invite links to whatever favorite app for community you want. Joe, thank you for the feedback. Sir Clank, thank you for clanking. Sir Ike, thank you for everything you do. And a big old shout out to everybody who catches the show live. Please take a second, hit the like button, share the show with whoever you want, because goodness gracious, the time has never been like now. The re-enchantment is happening, and let's try to get out there, share the show, and be a light in the darkness and a good influence on everybody who's going to have to be grappling with some very serious existential problems. I mean, that's the thing with the re-enchantment, is it's not just some cutesy thing. It is an existential wrestling match people are going to be having. And so we hope that we're able to bring some sanity to them in these times. But other than that, just share the show. Share it with your friends. Share it with your family. We call it rattling cages. And all you got to do is walk right up to them, grab them by the cage, and then you shake it.
The end of the world occurred pretty much as we had predicted. I want to shake things up, stir up some controversy, rattle a few cages. Hey, stop that! You'll never silence me. I'm the last angry man, a crusader for the little guy. Leave the bird alone. Never. Rattle a few cages. Rattle a few cages.
The human race will have every opportunity to improve.
And if they don't?
Ask Noah.
That's right. Just ask Noah. Gons, you got any last words?
Stay safe if you're in New York, and look out for Victor Nephilim Yambayama.
Yikes. All right, everybody. We'll be back on Wednesday. Thank you very much. Thanks for producing. Please produce the next show. Thank you very much. Other than that, that's not how it goes. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Canary Cry News. Next time. But until then, think outside the cage.
Look at that new knight go. Look at him go.
You guys are in a lot of trouble. Your body snatchers.
Generally speaking, Chinese people look Chinese.
But what if you're a grifter who needs to sell apps?
I'm gonna haunt you. I'm gonna haunt you. It reeks of an inside job.
Toilets! Toilets! Toilets!
Give me a break.
Do not come back, you Nazi psychopaths! It will kill.
Remember, reality is an illusion. The universe is a hologram. Buy gold. Bye!
which cometh down out of heaven from my God, and I will write upon him my new name. I will write upon him my new name. I think I was psyoped.
The deep state and the swamp. The swamp, the deep state. The swamp, the deep state. The swamp. So they're going to meet the deep state. What? They like Taylor Swift. The deep state is saving us from Armageddon, they say. Deep state means any government worker. That's the deep state. When we hear deep state, instead of recoiling, we should rally. Deep state. Even though their work is often invisible, it makes our lives better. Thank you, deep state. This is the most magnificent.
I've ordered more pills than anyone in the world.
Value for value. We take no money from corporations, commies, or cartels.
Canary cry.